I thought I heard the old man say, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Tomorrow ye will get your pay, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, the wind was foul and the sea ran high. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. She shipped it green and none went by, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. I hate to sail on this rotten tub. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. No grog allowed and rotten grub, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. We swear by our oath for want of more. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. But now we're through, so we'll go on shore, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her.
Leave her, Johnny. Do it. Just do it. Why? Why are you still there, Johnny? Tell me. Explain to me, Johnny. Please. Help me understand. Help me understand. Dude, one of my old bosses in real estate, he had a lot of funny, quirky sayings and things that he would do all the time. Ticks or stims, whatever you want to call it. But one of the things he would do is when he was on the phone with a client and they were like saying something that he thought was incredibly stupid, he would just go, help me understand. And so he'd just be on the phone. That doesn't make sense to me. You know, help me understand. And it was always the dead giveaway. Whenever somebody was saying something on the phone that was really stupid, you could just hear him in his office. Help me understand. Help me explain that to me. Help me understand. It was always like, he's dealing with somebody he thinks is stupid. Dead giveaway. Dead giveaway. You know, we've all been there. We've all been there where you're just like, there's no way you don't get this. Like, either you don't get it to the point where I'm like worried about like how you drive a car and go out, or you're being intentionally obtuse. You know, that happens too, especially in like real estate transactions where somebody wants to pay less, and so they're like, yeah, I think that boiler is gonna go out. It's like, it's 5 years old. Yeah, I'm just convinced it's gonna go out, man. Okay, help me understand. Help me understand why it's gonna go out after 5 years. Help me understand that. It's a good move, because then you have to let them, you know, you let the line out, you let them kind of spin and spin and spin and try to justify themselves. Usually doesn't work too good. Usually there's a lot of stammering and deflection that happens. Usually the clearest of the clear giveaways. Anyway, how are you guys on this lovely day? Hopefully you are good. I know I do be good as well. It's awesome. Heard one of your videos got copyright claim, Luke. Yeah, if you guys didn't follow, I pulled up the tab. It happened to everybody. In case you're not familiar, Nvidia revealed DLSS 5. Their video got taken down. Nvidia's video describing DLSS 5 got taken down. I was like, what? And then I checked my email, and my video had been copyright struck. Destin tweeted out that his video talking about DLSS 5 got copyright struck. And it's all done by this company called LA7. It's apparently some Italian news show or whatever. And on Friday or Saturday, whatever day it was, they just went scorched earth and copyright claimed everything, because it looks like they held like a podcast video thing, Coffee Tech, April 4th, 2026, uploaded that to YouTube. You'll remember that the Nvidia video was well before that, like weeks before that. But they went in and copyright claimed anybody that used any of the footage that was in their video, including the DLSS trailer. So they copyright claimed everybody, including Nvidia themselves, which is bold. Who should we mess with? What bear should we poke? The $4 trillion bear. Why not? Let's see how that goes. So, yeah, they claimed everybody, anybody that made a video showing DLSS 5 trailers or videos or whatever, got their videos taken down. And it wasn't just taken down, because some companies will do this to old videos, but old videos that they can maybe get like 5 cents or 10 cents of ad revenue off of. And they won't block it in any countries, but they'll claim it and then they'll take half of the revenue. And it's like a well-known scam, because these companies will create like legal entities and then they'll go and just manually claim videos like I've made 5 years ago that maybe make like $1 a month in ad revenue, right? But they take 50% of it if they claim it. So they take that, they make 50 cents off of that for doing literally nothing. Nothing. But they do that to thousands of videos, tens of thousands of videos. All of a sudden it adds up, and they're making thousands upon thousands or tens of thousands doing nothing by abusing the copyright system. So it's one of those like pieces of drama on the back end of being a YouTuber that I don't think you guys are particularly interested in. So why bother you with it? But it does happen a lot. And so when I saw this happening, I was like, okay, maybe that's what they're doing. They're going to try to claim this. I filed the appeals. I threatened to sue them, blah, blah, blah. It's another day, but going after Nvidia,
through Super Chat.
Bold.
Hope you're good. Quick Fortnite, epic question. With layoffs and rising costs, what drives expenses beyond salaries and servers, especially using their own engine? Curious
for your financial take. P.S. Arthur Morgan, always in our hearts. Thank you for the 20. Very generous, my friend. Appreciate you. Very, very kind. Thank you. As for what drives up rising costs, for one, their legal bills are insane. Epic sued Apple and Google. Bold move. So those lawsuits probably are now in the realm of hundreds of millions of dollars that it's been spent and all the expenses. I think the settlement they reached with Google required them to pay $800 million or something like that. So there's that. As for other ongoing costs, I mean, I'm sure like Fortnite has every crossover known to man, whether it's Star Wars or literally everything. So I'm sure they pay tons of licensing fees. So just because, and this is why you got to be careful, when you see a game like Fortnite did X number of billions in revenue, that does not mean that's what hit their bank account after all the expenses. Because I'm sure to get Darth Vader in the game, Disney's probably taken 50%. I'm sure Disney has an insane cut of that. And I'm sure that's true of a lot of other groups as well. Snoop Dogg skin in Warzone, he's probably taking 40% of that. Whenever they do these licensing fees, it's big. So Fortnite's gigantic, but part of the reason it's gigantic is because it was built with other people's IP that they're licensing. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. But long story short, having a game as big as Fortnite is expensive. This is not like a Roblox situation where everybody just creates the content for you and they just write it to the bank. There's a reason why Fortnite now or Roblox now is worth more than Activision Blizzard was when they were bought. I think they're over 70, unless there was a crash, they're over $70 billion for Roblox. And that's because it's just a platform and everybody else does the work. For Fortnite, they have to do the work and they have to pay other people for the rights to the stuff they put on their platform. So it's just really expensive. So yeah, long story short, she pricey. Disney did buy a big stake in Epic. Yeah, that probably helped and encouraged some of the further collaboration and stuff that they're doing. There's rumors that Disney is considering buying Epic Games, which I think would be a disaster. I really, really hope that doesn't happen. But there's been like significant rumors that Disney is considering buying them. And I'm just going to say, do you really want the mouse to own the engine that literally everybody uses? Like Disney is known for insane licensing fees. Imagine what they're going to do if they bought it. Like that would be bad. And Disney is not exactly known for cutting edge tech. They're known for putting stuff together and ruining it. We all remember the launch of the Magic Bands, Lightning Lanes, all that stuff, man. Ooh. How is Disney not considered a monopoly? Well, because they're not. Disney actually is a lot smaller than people think. Like Disney, of course, everybody knows Disney, but the real behemoths are like Paramount. Paramount's huge. Dare I say, huge. Paramount's gigantic. Comcast is freaking gigantic. Who owns Universal Studios Florida? Comcast. That really boring cable company? Yeah, they're way bigger than you think. Like they're huge, dude. So it's just Disney is smaller than a lot of people think, but I don't think that would necessarily be the right choice, I think. But anyway, that's the whole thing. OG Dith, I think. Thank you for the membership, my friend. Appreciate you. Dude, Twitch isn't working today. What? Why isn't Twitch working? Oh, sneaky. Hold on, let me switch this. Let's see how Twitch handles it. Let's see if I can turn it on. We're going to send way too high a bit rate. See if Twitch handles it and transcodes it. I don't know. Okay, now we're live on Twitch. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, how are you guys? Everybody rocking and rolling? Everybody feeling good? Hopefully. We have a few things to talk about. It shouldn't be too crazy. I went to the sauna today this morning. My physical therapist was telling me it's a good idea. I'm glad to hear it, Reaper. A quiet day, Silverkin. That's very, very good. And we all need a quiet day every once in a while, you know? Especially after the holiday weekend. It's good to get just a little breather. It's a good idea. Kino Man Sky, thank you. Glad to see you, my friend. Good to see you. I went to the sauna. Do we have any like Finnish people in chat? Anybody from like lands where saunas are really, really common? I didn't realize this, but I'm going to educate some people in chat because I didn't know this. I went to the sauna and I sat in there and dude, everybody was wearing hats. These are really poorly photoshopped. But everybody was wearing hats like this. And I was like, did I miss a giveaway? Did I miss a memo? Like, why did I not get a cool bucket hat like that? I was like, what? So here's what I learned. Saunas, especially infrared saunas, they wear these little sauna hats. Okay. They're made out of wool and they are meant to protect your hair and scalp because otherwise like your hair gets super freaking hot and it can cause like scalp issues, baldness, all sorts of things. So people that do the sauna a lot will get these little wool hats that cover them. That's a KCD hat. Yeah. They protect their hat. I only realized this because I went in there and I sat down. You think this hat's cool? Dude. Imagine wearing that traditional sauna hat. Do we have any Nords in chat who can confirm if this is normal? So I was in the sauna and the guy's sitting there and he's with a buddy of his and he turns to him and is like, dude, I forgot my hat. And his friend turns to him and this is an older gentleman, maybe like 50s. And he's starting to go bald a little bit. And his friend goes, yeah, well, what good would it do? Your hair already quit. You basically, not wearing your hat, you basically fired it. I was like, oh, so then I got out of the sauna after a bit and I Googled it and I found out that, this is actually like a very, very normal thing. I just had never seen it. Dude, imagine wearing the donkey hat. Unironically walking into the sauna and putting that on. So anyway, yeah, if you ever wondered what those hats are, that's what it is. It's natural like wool, but it's meant to protect your scalp and hair. Otherwise, going in the sauna a lot may cause you to go bald. Who knew, right? Who knew? So there you go. Learn something new every day. But yeah, now when I look at these like videos and pictures of people in saunas, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess they do all wear hats. I thought it was just like a funny, silly thing. Maybe like to lean against the side of it. I don't know. But now I know it's specifically apparently to protect your scalp. So there you go. Nobody in the Nordics uses these. They're built different, dude. They're tough. They're tough. So there you go. Somebody also, one Reddit thread I saw was saying that they do it like also because you get out of the sauna, and then usually a lot of at least northern countries, they have the sauna outside and they walk through like the icy cold to the sauna, and they wear the hat to keep their head warm when they walk between the two. That doesn't really make sense to me because like you're in trunks, you know, like that doesn't make sense. Like why not have an entire robe at that point? But whatever. A lot of saunas here in Minnesota. Yeah, dude, a lot of my extended family from my wife's side, they are from Finland. They are like first or second generation immigrants from back in the day. And a lot of them settled in Minnesota. And so Minnesota has a massive like Finnish population, Danish population. And it's who knew? So there you go. Little education for you. Sauna hats. That's what it is. So yeah. Anyway, I don't remember how I got on that, but there you go. No, Twitch shut us off. Dude, Twitch is killing me recently. It's seriously, it's like they don't want me to stream there. It's unbelievable. But yeah, they shut it off. Sorry, Twitch. Sorry, fam. If you're a Twitch viewer, rip-a-rooney. Anyway, let me catch up on these real quick, and then we'll get going. The Nugget, thank you for 11 months. Almost at a year, baby. We're so close. Do you think the Xbox change was driven by a strategic new plan or by bad annual assessment of the progress towards objectives and goals? So basically, the question is like, what pressured Xbox to make the change that they seem to be making? I think it's pretty clear that Xbox was not doing as well as they wanted it to. I don't think that's like a hot take. I think that's pretty clear. Like console sales, hardware sales are in the gutter. They are struggling to even find profitability with things like Game Pass, with big juggernaut titles dragging the whole thing down. You put Call of Duty on it, and like we saw in the reporting, here's the article, or one of them, from Windows Central. A report suggested that Microsoft gave up roughly $300 million in Call of Duty sales as a result of its inclusion in Game Pass. Let me cue you in on Business 101. When you spend $70 billion on something, the goal is to make money. Losing money is bad. Losing $300 million is really bad. Dare I say, downright awful. Okay, this is not what you want, and this could work if you're getting $300 million plus worth of new signups on Game Pass, right? If you got people to sign up enough, so over the course of a year they make up this difference, and you end up ahead. That works, but that clearly didn't happen. Game Pass as a concept made sense doing this type of thing if they could get to like 100 million subscribers. They haven't. And I think part of it is that by going multi-platform with everything, while their core business model is still Game Pass, it doesn't work unless you can bring Game Pass to PlayStation. And I think it's pretty clear PlayStation would never, ever want that to happen. Because the second Game Pass is on PlayStation, PlayStation's store sales plummet, right? It would just plunge. So they really don't want that to happen. So I think it's probably the case that Satya Nadella had goals for them. They were not meeting those goals and meeting those standards. And then I think there was probably discussion internally, legitimately, of Phil Spencer saying he was considering retiring. He was like nearing the end of his career. And he was like, yeah, I'm just tired. I'm ready to move on. And I think it's I don't have any, this is gut feeling. Okay. This is not like secret source or anything. This is literally just my feeling. It makes sense to me that an executive would wait to the end of the generation. That's what almost always happens, except in cases where people are pretty clearly pushed out, like Jim Ryan. After blowing billions on stuff that didn't work, he all of a sudden is like, yeah, I got tired of flying so much. It's like, Okay. Okay. But I think probably what happened is that Phil was saying, I want to retire at the end of this generation. And Satya was like, how about we expedite it? We get your replacement in. She can start redoing stuff the way she wants it. She can kickstart it and kick off the next generation. We'll go from there. And I think that that's probably what happened, is that there was dissatisfaction for the way things were going. Phil was already talking about leaving. And so Satya was like, okay, you know what? Let's just get this done now. I was going to wait a year. Let's just do it. It's clearly not working out. And so that's why he brought Asha in. And so far, as we've said, you know, talk is cheap. Actions have actual meaning. You know, one's actions speak a lot louder than their words. And so far, Asha's actions have been very, very good. Color me very pleasantly surprised. I was braced for it to come in and it's just AI everything everywhere. But no, she's actually come in and done a lot of things that have excited the fan base, have excited old school fans, people who were fans and left. Even something as basic as bringing the Fan Fest back, and then the fan festival that everybody loves gets such a resounding positive reaction that she announces it's coming to 7 more cities this year, which is crazy. It's crazy. So I think her actions so far are speaking a lot louder than her words, and it's speaking good things. So I'm optimistic, honestly. I'm optimistic. It's still like, I would not expect her to come in and be like, we're going to lower all games to $60 and we're going to do this, and this, and we're going to eat the cost of console sales at first. Like, I don't expect anything insane like that, but I do think that she's actually trying, which maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Like, honestly, did you guys get the feeling that like Phil was just broken by the end? I honestly was starting to feel like a little bad. I think he's a guy that was a true gamer and he really loved the industry. And it just sucked because as the years went by, everybody turned on him because they hated the direction things were going. And I think he just got broken as time went on. And you know, he's an executive, you know, who really cares at the end of the day. He's doing just fine. But I do think that that's why he disappeared. He used to be very visible. He used to go to all sorts of events and talk with people. And he was very, very active. And then the last like 2 years, he just disappeared. And I think he was just like, I'm done with this, man. I'm just done. And that's why it feels so weird to see Asha, who's coming in and like seemingly really like she's coming in with energy, which I think is that was something that Phil just didn't have at the end. Like, I think Herman doesn't go to events and doesn't connect with the fan base because he just honestly doesn't care. I don't think he really cares. Phil, I think, really did care. It's why he kept all of his profiles public. It's why he would play with people that he'd run into in games. Like, he was just an honest to goodness fan of gaming. But I think he just got tired, boss. I think he just got tired. But I think we'll see Phil pop up in another 5 years after he, you know, he's had some time on the yacht. He's chilled for a bit. His kids have graduated high school and he's ready to like come back in. I wouldn't be surprised if Phil comes back and is like one of the panel members of the Game Awards. Like, I don't think we've seen the last of Phil. I do think he's going to pop up. But I think for now, he needs to give space to Asha, let her do her thing. Phil could have made the Xbox great if he wasn't so constrained by the suits. Possibly, but I think also Phil's idea for Xbox just proved to not work. You know, it's really easy to just pin the everything is an Xbox campaign on Sarah Bond, but he hired her. And he had tweets and stuff talking about our goal for Xbox is to put it everywhere on every platform, like to make the platform ubiquitous and not a consideration for gamers. Like, that was his vision years and years and years before Sarah Bond even came in. So at the end of the day, like, it still was part of his vision. And I think his vision just didn't seemingly work out. You know, it just doesn't work. We don't know what Sarah's approach is and what her vision is, but I think she's at least going to come in with something. Because as I've said, there's some things where what they were doing was not working. So coming in and doing anything differently at least gives a shot of like taking them in a different direction, which is what they really need. But anyway, let me catch up on these real quick. What is that? Didio. I'm not sure. Thank you for the super chat. Hey Luke, I've been playing Crimson Desert for 10 hours and until now it just feels like Assassin's Creed with bizarre puzzles and clunky commands. How better does it get in the next 10 to 20 hours? I think the general consensus is that after chapter 3, it really opens up. Basically, there's a boss fight at the end of chapter 3 that kind of marks like the start of the grand adventure, and then it really opens up. And with more like with a clearer idea of what you're doing. For me, as the time has gone by, my enjoyment of the game has just gotten better and better and better. Dude, I remember like the days after it launched, people were like, do you think this is in your game of the year consideration? I was like, I don't know. After now being in like the mid 100-hour range, I'm like, oh yeah, this is in my consideration. Because once you get there, it's hard to go back. But it is one of those games where like, if this is your chart of enjoyment, where like, I don't know, if we just say this is the midline. So this is positive feelings, this is negative feelings. I think for a lot of people, when they start Crimson Desert, it either starts dead center or it starts even a little negative. Where you're like, this is clunky, this is weird. But as time goes by and you get to like chapter 3, it goes up. And for a lot of games, it'll kind of tail off maybe or flatline. For me, it's been basically like, I really liked it from the start, but for me, it's just steadily gotten better and better and better. And I'm just constantly discovering new things. So it's unfortunate that this is so flat for so many people. But once you hit that chapter 3 point, pretty much everybody says that that's when your enjoyment skyrockets. It's just a matter of getting there. And I understand for a lot of people, they don't want to deal with that. It's like the age old thing of it's an acquired taste. I get that. I get that people say that. I would prefer people enjoy something from the outset. Personally, like I wish people connected with it instantaneously, but that clearly doesn't happen for every player. But if you can get there, like you'll fall in love. I really think so, especially if you like open world games like this. You really will. Let's see. Pinheadry, thank you for the membership. Thanks for making work fun. Much love to you too, my friend. Much love. Leo Breaker, thank you for the 5. Help me, Luke. You're my only hope. Oh, I I have stick drift on my PS5 controller, and I'm looking for maybe a third-party one that has at least Hall effect sticks. I have not messed around with a lot of third-party controllers. If anybody has recommendations for third-party controllers for PlayStation, let Leo know in chat. I have the DualSense Edge, which I don't even know what this is running nowadays. Nice thing is when the joysticks go bad, you can actually just replace them. So you can actually like pop them out and replace the joystick entirely, which is really nice. I've never had to do that, but it is nice to know that if you're like, it's probably $200. If your $200 controller starts having issues like that, you can just swap them out. Easy. So I've had good luck with this. Initially, I was not that thrilled with it, mainly because I was coming off of the Elite Series 2, which has a lot more customization for like individual buttons being swapped out and D-pad swapping out. But as I've used it more and more, I've enjoyed it a lot. It's kept its longevity. One downside, the battery life sucks. Really sucks. So that's the only downside. But if anybody has any recommendations for third-party alternatives, let Leo know, okay? Trafalgar, thank you for the 2. Send a DM on X. YouTube won't connect to Discord. Okay, thank you for doing that. I will get to that, and we can get you in with a direct link. Kyle, thank you for the 5. Have you heard of the allegations against 343 Halo Studios and Microsoft's response? I have heard of those. I did pull them up, and we will look at those. Yes, I did see that. Dude, okay, read that one. Ashish, thank you for the super chat. Do you think we will ever get Days Gone 2? Honestly, I don't think so. I just don't think so. The studio is so different now. All of the original guys that put together Days Gone, they've all left. And now, like for the last decade, basically, they've been working on multiplayer games. All of them have been canceled, but they've been working on multiplayer games. So I don't think the studio that made Days Gone is there anymore. So I just don't think so, dude. I just don't think so. I would like to see a sequel. I think it could have been awesome, but I just, especially the tech they had for how many individual creatures they could have on screen at a time for the year 2017, or was it 29? No, it's 2017, I think. It was legitimately like groundbreaking tech, but never used again. Really too bad. Really too bad. Sam, thank you for that super chat for the 5. Hi, Luke. Will you be talking about the new State of Decay 3, or is there not enough info? There's not a lot of info, but we do have a story related to it, because one of my sneaking suspicions when we talked about it at in the last stream proved true. So we'll touch on that real quick. What the thing we all thought was the case turns out was the case. So yeah. And then Caleb, I'm glad you're liking Crimson Desert Man, but man, I'm so regretting this purchase. The game is boring. The writing is amateurish at best. The controls are clunky. I'm not going to spend 40 hours hoping it gets better. Well, that's totally fair. I do feel for people that got into it and really love the idea of the game and haven't connected with it. I do feel for people who are in your spot, Caleb, and that does legitimately. I know it's really frustrating to be like, I bought this game and I'm playing it and I'm just not seeing what you're seeing in it. Like I'm not where you're at with it, you know? And for the people to be like, well, just keep playing. I get how that sounds and how that's annoying. Okay, I get it. Unfortunately, there's not really a good... That kind of is the answer. It's like at one point it clicks for people. And when it clicks, it's like, oh my God. But if you don't want to put the time in to get there, that is very fair. That's very fair. I don't, no shade to anybody who's like, I got other games I want to play. Like, that's totally fine. And yeah, it is quite the investment. That's absolutely the case. It's just tricky because I remember it also happened with Red Dead Redemption 2. A buddy of mine, and like a lot of us have played, I'm sure, Red Dead Redemption 2. The first few chapters of that game are really slow, like especially the snowy areas. It's a trudge, literally, to get through those to the point where the game really opens up. And a lot of people, it's easy to forget now because everybody's like, no, it's a masterpiece. But back when it launched, there were a lot of people who were falling off of it and were like, dude, I'm so bored. Like, it's so slow. But once you got past that, if you could get past that point, it was like, I get it, dude, I'm a cowboy, and it worked really well. But, that's just, it's a reality of some games. It's also true of some shows and books and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you've read the first 5 books of the Bible. Kind of a bummer, honestly. Kind of a bummer. Later books get pretty good, but the first few are rough, man. You got to build up to it, is what I'm saying. Did Luke just compare Crimson Desert to the Bible? I think so. I think I did. Oops. Tony, thank you for the 2 rip Monolith Wonder Woman game in our hearts. Dude, if we had ever seen it, it would have been cool, but we didn't even see it, dude. Like, we didn't even see it. Breaking Bad, in my opinion, starts slow, but it's so good. Yeah, Breaking Bad, I think, is another one. I've tried to get Nikki to watch Breaking Bad a few times because I love it. Every like 4 to 5 years, I rewatch the entire thing all the way through, and it's amazing every time. But that is another one that kind of starts a little rough as it finds its footing. The Office, the American Office, is another great example. The first season is legitimately hard to watch. It's legitimately, and it's why it sucks when you hear that a show was canceled after 1 season, because The Office probably, let's be real, should have been canceled after that first season. It was pretty bad. Like, it was pretty bad. But by the time like they got to season 2, they had figured everything out, and then it was great. And now it's like an all-time great show, for a lot of people. It's just, yeah, Parks and Rec, exactly. That's another one. A lot of those shows kind of start clunky and then they figure it out. But yeah, it's a phenomenon across all of entertainment and media, and it's in an ideal world there wouldn't be any sort of acquiring the taste, but it is just how it is for a lot of things. Okay. I guess the other way is that it could go the opposite way as well. Like, did any raise your hand? One in chat if you ever watched Lost. Dude, Kyle, right as I said Lost, Kyle said it in chat. He read my mind. Lost started amazing. It started amazing. And then, bro, they lost the plot. First 3 seasons of Lost are phenomenal. And every week you're like, I'm so interested. I am so curious how they're going to explain it. Turns out they didn't have an answer. It's probably because there was a writer's strike. Original writers left and it was a big cluster. But Lost started great. Everybody was hooked. And then as it went on, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. Game of Thrones, a lot of people are also referencing and saying that that's another example. I met a dude who played a character that got blown up on Lost. What was his name? I know. Was it Gale? Was it Gale? Did Gale get blown up? I know the character you're talking about who's holding the dynamite and it blows up. I know that point. Yeah. That's funny. If you met that actor, that's cool.
Hayden Wayne 75 donated $20 through Super Chat. I'm about to hit 150 hours in Crimson Desert.
Oh, hell yeah.
I've made it to chapter 8.
Arnst.
Found some really cool things, but I know there is so much more to find and do. I'm worried about progressing main story
too fast, but I don't want it to end. No, you're good. There's multiple points where I'm gonna be real with you. The game is gonna kind of force you to pump the brakes. I reached a point, I told you guys last week, I reached a point where I had like 3 or 4 story bosses that were just so crushingly difficult. I had to basically go, okay, see you later. And I left and I explored for, I don't even know how many hours, but I went off and I did other stuff, leveled up gear, found new equipment, swapped it in and out. And then at one point I was like, oh yeah, I should go back to the main story. I went back and I was able to get through the boss fights and win them all in one session, just sitting down and doing it. But the game does have moments where it will be like, you need to take a moment. And so rest assured, I don't think the game will let you just beeline it through. I think the game does have a lot of points where you'll it'll kind of force you to slow down. Lost was tough to sit through for me after a while. Yeah, it's too bad because the show is great, but then they were known for doing the flashback thing, which was pretty groundbreaking at the time for TV. I think they had the largest core cast of any show in American history. Like it was a big deal. And it worked really well. But after 3 seasons, they had gone through everybody's backstory. And so then they were like, for season 4, what else can we do? Let's do Flash sideways. Let's show what the universe would be like in an alternative dimension. And it just got bad. It was like, we have officially run out of ideas. It was a show that frankly needed to end after 3 seasons, not explain everything, leave some questions for a spin-off show when a writer comes up with a really cool explanation. But instead they were just like, oh, let's just put an Egyptian statue there and put hieroglyphs on the walls because that's mysterious. It's like, can we not? Can we not, dude? Anyway. Let's see. Meta, thank you for the 5. Hey, Luke, wish me luck. I'm trying to get back to the gym at least 4 times a week and hit 10,000 steps a day for a decent summer bod starting today. You got this, Meta. You got this. Everyone tell Meta he's got this. You got this. You can do it. The first step is always the hardest. It's always the hardest, but I'm telling you what, you can do it. Big thing, especially if you are out of, if you haven't been doing it a lot, like if you're out of the loop and out of the rhythm of it, definitely like really prioritize a lot of water, drink more than you think you should when you get home, and eat some pickles. The salt's good for you. Helps you prevent like cramping and stuff like that. But yeah, drink more water than you think you need to and eat some pickles. It's my recommendation. You got this. You got this. Let's see. Hey, Hadid Dust, I think, thank you for the 2 release the candle tape. Never. Just remember though. Yes, we candle. Yes, we candle. And then thank you again for, Hayden Wayne for the 20. That's incredibly generous. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. And then Marshall, thank you for 2 months. Thank you for 2 months. Thank you, my friend, for 2 months. That's fantastic. Appreciate you. Protein shakes too. Protein shakes are great. Creatine also will legitimately help you with recovery. Yeah, creatine is like the ultimate cheat code. It's pretty fantastic, but you have to stay on it. You have to really stay on it. It's easy to like skip a day or two, but if you skip a day or two, the whole thing falls apart. So don't do that. Okay, real quick. I want to talk about this. I want to mention this. Okay. Luke brought gems on Steam, Mad Max, Guardians of the Galaxy, Shadow of Mordor, Prey, BioShock games. Oh, baby, life is good. Dude, those are all goats. Dude, Mad Max doesn't get enough love. Mad Max still to this day looks really good. It's really fun. It's a pretty simple premise for a game, but dude, it works really, really, really well. It is really good. Mad Max is goated. Guardians of the Galaxy is really good. Shadow of Mordor is really good. Prey, BioShock. Oh. Can't go wrong with any of those. Those are fantastic. Real quick, I want to talk about this because our suspicions were basically confirmed. Let me pull it up. So, new mini segment thing. I don't know. Let Jacob decide if he wants to clip it. So you guys remember we got it out of nowhere, a reveal for State of Decay 3. Basically, they just announced that they're going to be doing alpha play tests, that they want your feedback. They're opening it up to everybody to try the game early if they're selected and give them feedback to help build it. Now, what's strange is that this game was revealed back in the summer of 2020, 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago, which is a long time. A very long time. So I'm glad that they're opening up to feedback. I'm glad they're opening it up to this type of thing. But let's be perfectly honest and like real. This shouldn't have taken 6 years to get here. It doesn't really make sense. If they're working on it actively for 6 years, why are they only in alpha now? What it seemed to me, and this is what I said the other day on Friday, like it seems to me like they probably didn't have anything substantive in 2020, and that was more of a trailer pushed on them by Xbox to market the next gen consoles, and they just hadn't even started working on it, which was just a feeling. But it has since been apparently confirmed based on some reporting from Kotaku. State of Decay 3 trailer was basically fake, as Dev Dash's fans hoped for Zombie Deer. A 2020 Xbox reveal trailer was a hype video for a game that didn't even exist, or didn't even sort of exist yet. State of Decay 3 was first revealed back in 2020 ahead of the launch of the Xbox Series X and S with a cinematic trailer that showed no gameplay. The teaser signaled loftier narrative ambitions for the zombie sandbox series, but the truth is the game didn't even exist yet outside of broad outlines and attempts to prototype what Undead Labs' next sequel would look like. Studio head Philip Holt recently confirmed that the trailer was essentially fake and said its zombie deer are not on the menu for the finished game. So you know that moment where they show the zombie deer? Everyone's like, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah, he like straight up just said that's not in the game. It's just not in it. Quote, so that trailer, there really wasn't a game or game team when we were working on that trailer. Like, it was so early, Holt said in a new interview with Sunny Games after State of Decay 3's May 2026 alpha playtest was revealed. Quote, the game was in a Word document. It was in a Word document. And they made a trailer. They made a trailer, dude. It was a Word document. It was really the very beginning of the software. The trailer was done by Blur. It was all pre-rendered. It represented, I think, a concept, a concept of a concept. Our thoughts at the time of what might be, dude, our thoughts at the time of what might be cool to explore. Like, there's like 3 or 4 different words or phrases to explain. All of that could be totally changed and different in State of Decay 3. And as we've had the chance to build a team and get going on the game, some of those elements I think are going to persist in the game that we deliver. And some of those things are just like, we're not doing zombie animals. As Kotaku reported back in 2022, Microsoft was going around its studios asking for trailers in 2020 to build hype for the next-gen console. Current and former developers on the game said they were surprised by what was shown, including a zombie deer that showed up in the trailer and led fans to believe the infected animals would be one of the sequel's new features. The showcase included reveals for games like Rare's Everwild, which was later canceled, Playground's Fable, which is only scheduled to release this fall. Quote, we didn't want to announce the game because we didn't even know what it was at that point, said State of Decay 3 developer at the time. This is hardly the first time a game reveal was rushed. Microsoft infamously showed off Xbox One reboot of Phantom Dust using pre-rendered trailer that was untouched by the developers at Darkside who were actually making the game. It was never released. Issues like this are why a lot of game trailers now include disclaimers about whether they're in-engine, and many players say things like no gameplay, no hype, which is a fair feeling. What's insane is, like, again, that seemingly so current and former developers on the game, on State of Decay 3, were surprised by what was shown. So people working on the game were surprised to see zombie deers or a zombie deer in it, because they were like, we didn't do that. What? Why is there a deer in it? Like they didn't know about that. They're like, what do you mean there's a zombie deer? We didn't do that, did we? Is that in our game? State of Decay 3 announcement trailer. Like, just imagine working on this game. This is the trailer they're talking about, okay? This is the trailer. Received overwhelmingly positive because it looks pretty cool. But like this. Pretty big moment. And the devs had no idea that was going to be in the trailer. I honestly don't understand how that happens. Like, I would think that the developers would be given the chance to review the script for the trailer, the outline of the trailer before it gets made. I would think, but apparently not. Apparently, like, some people, maybe like the head of the studio got to see it, but like a lot of people working on the game had no idea what this trailer was. They saw it at the showcase just with like everybody else. And they see this, and like the whole premise of the trailer is that she's going out, she's hunting, and then sees the blood, sees the tracks, follows it over, and finds an infected deer. Like, that is the premise of the trailer, and the devs didn't know, and it's not in the game. Like, it's just crazy. Like, to be clear, and yeah, it's the deer is eating the wolf in a crazy reversal of the dynamic, you know? Like, that's the whole idea. But I think that this was much more of a Microsoft needing trailers to make people excited for the next gen of consoles, rather than like the devs were trying to trick people. Because like they said, most of the devs didn't know that this was in, or at least some of the devs didn't know that that was even in the trailer. And if they had known, they probably would have been like, what? And so now they are saying infected animals are not in the game. Don't get your hopes up for that. Even though that was the premise of that trailer 6 years ago, that's not in the game. So just to be clear. But yeah, it goes again that it just goes to show you, like, CGI cinematic trailers, you got to just be cautious. Like, they can look cool, but usually they're made by a different company than the one making the game. As we see here, sometimes there's very little overlap between who's working on it, what's in it, versus what's going to be in the final game. And a lot of the time they're done, especially around launches of new consoles and hardware, they're done more to sell the hardware and less to sell the game. So what is actually going to be in the game becomes much less important. Some people are not too worried about it either way. I still think State of Decay 3 is probably going to be awesome because it's State of Decay and I really like it. But it's an unfortunate, I think, reality that a lot of these trailers and a lot of trailers from that time ended up just being like nothing burgers and just empty with nothing. So yeah, it is what it is. They lied and have paid for it. I mean, I don't know if they have, or you mean Xbox has paid for it? Yeah, I mean, they revealed a lot of games that people thought were coming to the console soon-ish, and now we're almost at the end of the generation, and a lot of these games are just now entering like alpha development and are still probably a year or two away. It's crazy to see that, like, State of Decay 3, like I said, I'm excited for. I think it's going to be cool. I love State of Decay, but it's crazy to think that this was revealed before this generation started. It was one of the games selling this generation, and it probably doesn't launch into 1.0 until the last year of the generation, which is wild. It's just wild. But show us the actual game. They did in that trailer from the other day. They did show some actual gameplay of it when they opened it up to the alpha playtests. So they have shown it, but I think it's fair to say if all you've seen of a game is a cinematic trailer, it doesn't tell you much of anything. You can be excited for the idea of the game, for the concept of the game, but it's not a game yet. It's the same thing with like The Witcher 4. They've said time and time and time again that The Witcher 4 is they have this tech demo, but they've stressed this is not The Witcher 4. Time and time again, this is not The Witcher 4. This is a tech demo showing tech they plan to use in the game, but this is not the game. Again, it's written on the bottom, technical presentation, not actual gameplay. So even this, like, this looks cool. I think it's fair to get excited at what the future could hold, but you've got to be very, very clear that, like, this even that looks much more like a game is still not a game. It's still just something built to like sell Unreal Engine and the tech behind The Witcher 4 and everything. So it's just important to remember each of the pieces. Each of the pieces, whenever you start to get excited, you got to remember the context of everything, because often there's pieces missing, you know. Let's see. It'll look like this, Luke. I hope. Yes. I agree. I hope. I want it to look like that. And when they do that trailer that first showcases true gameplay and like the actual build of the game, and if it does look like that, dude, people are going to lose their minds, myself included, because then it'll be real. This is actually real. This is a real video game. But they've got to do that. They have to demonstrate that first. Speaking of demonstrating something, I just thought this was funny. I saw this tweet and figured I'd share it with you. Goes to Babylon clipped this from Reddit, but basically a Korean player apparently figured out a way to punish NPCs for stealing his food. If you set down items like food or money or valuables in Crimson Desert, NPCs will go grab it and take it for themselves. So he came up with a way to set a log up on the side of a bridge, and then NPCs that go to take it walk off the bridge, which is kind of funny. That the dynamic AI even thinks like this NPC's walking, sees the apple, wants the apple, tries to figure out how to get to it, and then thinks, oh, I'm going to run and jump to it. And it doesn't end too well. They just fall straight off. So there you go. There you go. Who knew? Who knew? Gotta love dynamic systems, though. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Let's do real quick. I want to, you know, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this because this is also a point of question for me. Okay, this is also one. So real quick, new mini segment thing. The last handful of days, I've actually, as like one of my guilty pleasure relaxation games, I've been playing a tidbit of Black Flag. Sorry, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And I've been replaying some of it, and I wanted to get reacclimated to it because it's been a minute since I played through it from start to finish again. And I was like, I want to see what this is like because the remake is coming at some point this year, probably. And they are rumored to be changing all sorts of stuff. So like it's expected that they're going to be changing some of the map. They're going to be changing inventory systems. They're going to be changing a lot of this stuff, like the combat potentially as well. And I wanted to replay the OG to see how it feels. And I plan on doing like a full video on the big channel about this. So, you know, this is early stages, but I've been replaying it and I wanted to see like how much of it is rose tinted glasses, remembering it more fondly than maybe it actually deserves, and how much of it like could actually benefit from reinvention, from overhauls and stuff like that. And for this, I want to know in chat how you guys feel, because there's kind of a few key points to this. Number one, they're expected to change, like I said, the inventory system. That includes with it things like weapons, how you customize your ship and things like that. So it won't be one-to-one. Now, having replayed the game recently, I will say, dude, the equipment systems in these older Assassin's Creed games are straight up donkey ass. They're really bad, okay? It's really bad. It's like your weapons, your swords have like a damage number, a speed number, and then like a combo number, and they go up to, I think 5 is the max, and then they're all slightly different variations. There's a bajillion different weapons that are all slightly tweaked and look slightly different. Most of them are Ubisoft Club rewards for having your Ubisoft account connected. So like if you played AC Origins, they brought a Bayek skin and some of the weapons over to Black Flag and stuff like that. It's really disjointed and weird and just flooded with all sorts of unintuitive things. Beyond that, there's other things like these older school games. They wanted you to explore the environment, to loot chests, to loot bodies. And so they had inventory tied to pretty much everything, whether it's poison darts, berserker darts, which I guess are the same thing, the sleep darts, the like different types of ammunition for the mortar, like everything. And it just like it started fine back then, but dude, nowadays I think it would be considered such busy work and tedium, it would drive people crazy. There are some of these bespoke sequences like this with the diving bell that are fun, and I'm excited to see how they handle these again. But even these sections, like you can see in the bottom left, it's like these little barrels that you go in to get refilled with oxygen, and then there's like 7 chests. And that is the location. That is what you do. Like you go, you swim down, you open the chest, you go to a barrel, get more air. Then you go to the next chest, you open it up, and then you go to the next place. And then you get attacked by an eel. It's very, very straightforward. And one of the things that's expected is that they're actually going to be overhauling some of these elements as well. So like the map is expected to change. They want it to be more interesting to explore while you're going out and about. I don't know if that just means like they're adding combat challenges or if they're going to just add different types of chests, and maybe they're going to add unique weapons in the chests that encourage you to explore to find those things. Because personally, I greatly prefer when I go and explore a location in a game to find like a unique item or weapon that I'll actually use. as opposed to like, oh, you found some currency and some crafting components. That drives me crazy. It's one thing that Crimson Desert does really, really well is you'll explore this massive open world and then you'll find like a really, really crazy weapon in some cavern of some temple in the middle of the snowy mountains. And it's like such a unique thing that you're like telling your friends about it. That's what I connect with way more than like just casually finding, some more crafting components. But that's just me. So I think that there's plenty of room for them to overhaul that. The other thing I will say, dude, I'm gonna be real. I had forgotten how much the game relies on trailing missions. It's easy to forget because trailing missions were like abandoned largely after this game and AC Unity. Syndicate still had a few, but circa 2014 is when the narrative shifted and people started hating trailing missions. But dude, they are all over the place in the game. And basically the idea is that they want you to explore the city. Basically they wanted you to explore an environment while following characters. So you could see, you get narrative exposition, and you also are parkouring up and around buildings while following them. So it's like an added challenge while you're getting narrative exposition. So it made sense at the time, but dude, it feels like a solid 20% of the missions in this game are follow this guy, but not too close. And then you also need to see him. Otherwise, a 20-second countdown will start. And if you don't see him within 20 seconds, you fail the mission. And so while you're like juggling that, you also are like constantly checking on the timer and making sure you can have line of sight to this guy. It's just like things like that, where it's very, very antiquated. And that's why I think it's going to be fascinating to see what they've changed and how, because I can see both sides of it, right? This is a remake, remaster, whatever they want to call it. They're calling it resynced. So who knows what it actually is purely, but they are changing things about this game. They're trying to give it new life in the modern era. But dude, so many aspects of Black Flag are unapologetically 2013. It is unapologetic in how 360 era it is, with like every aspect of it. It is such a pure Ubisoft game from that era that to do a one-to-one remake and leave in like all the trailing missions, leave in the tedium and the collectathon stuff, all the sea shanties that are scattered everywhere and the animus fragments that are scattered everywhere, leaving all that in could be legitimately kind of a fun blast from the past. But they might also try to overhaul it and make it more modern, for lack of a better term, and meet players' expectations a little more directly with what they've come to know and love from modern open world games. It's going to be fascinating because I think a lot of people played this game back in the day, loved it back in the day, and I don't know how many people have gone back to it in the years since, because it is very, very antiquated. I still love it, but when I really try to look at it through the lens of somebody that has not played it in 10 years, I'm like, oh, it changes the dynamic, because there's a lot of aspects of it that are just very, 360, it's very 360. So it's going to be fascinating to see what they change and how they do it. As for combat, I'm also going to be real. I know a lot of people got triggered when news broke that they were considering changing the combat system, maybe to be a mixture of like Mirage meets Shadows or something. I'm gonna be real. I think that might be the right call, dude. The combat in these games was changed because people hated it. Like, people forget, but they're like, oh no, they should have kept the rock, paper, scissors combat. They should have kept the mash X and then occasional Y or B parry. But I'm gonna be real, dude. They changed it because people hated it. It wasn't just because people were like, they wanted to change stuff for the sake of changing it. The feedback was overwhelming that people didn't like it. And going back to it, I like the flares, but dude, after playing for an hour, you're like, bro, mash, 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 B, mash, 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 B, mash, 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 A to break him. And then mash. It kills it. And again, paired with the inventory system, which is effectively like, oh, your weapons, they have, this sword has 4 speed and this one has 3 damage. What does that mean? I don't really know, but I think it's better. Like, I think it just, again, is a pure product of its time. So I'm much more open-minded about a lot of these changes after going back and playing through it over the last handful of days, and getting reacclimated with some of those changes. What I will say has aged even better than anything, though, is the narrative. The voice acting is top notch. Like, the vibes are immaculate, and that's going to be the big thing to preserve. I'm gonna be real. The one thing they could do that would pretty much instantaneously kill this for me is if they change the cutscenes and change them into like the static dynamic ones that they have in AC Shadows. If that's what they're doing, I'm gonna be upset. But if they can keep the motion capture, or if they redid the motion capture, then we're talking. But I swear to Yves Guillemot, if they redid all of the scenes and now Edward, instead of a carefully blocked sequence with full motion capture and everything, if it changes to this and he's just, I need to go and I need to find Blackbeard, and then I'm going to go do this. And I don't remember any specific scene, but you get the point. I would crash out. Exactly. And make the VA do new lame dialogue. If they rewrite scenes, that would be insane. That would be crazy, because especially people love the narrative and love the writing. Like, I'd be baffled if they did that. But I'm really, really hoping that they retain that. And that just comes down to like one of those creative choices. It's something that was probably decided 4 or 5 years ago. Are we going to redo the motion capture? Are we going to preserve it and just, are we going to redo VO? Do we need to do that? It's like, those are very, very early decisions that were made years ago. And I just hope they made the right ones. Because if you don't know, the guy that's now in charge of it is Jean Guidon. And Jean he was the creative director of Black Flag. So he was like the guy that helped make this game what it was. So he's now in charge. But let's be perfectly honest. He started that job at the beginning of this year. I think February is when he started. He can't change it. Like, if they, let's say hypothetically, if they chose to redo all of this stuff and it's all static and whatever, if they chose to do it that way, it's too late for him to change it. And I'm sure he's not happy about it either, but it's too late. Now, hopefully they didn't change it and he's like all on board with it and it looks great. We just don't know. But I think that this could be for Ubisoft such a slam dunk if they do it the right way and present it the right way. It's just going to be fascinating to see, because this is the first time in a good long while where Ubisoft has a game pretty much everyone I can tell really wants to be good. You know, like, everybody is like, please don't screw this up. Please don't screw this up. Dude, a next generation Black Flag with like current generation fidelity would be phenomenal. It would be phenomenal. And it would be so awesome. It's just going to be a matter of like whether they can execute on it properly. And I'm hoping they do. But man, it's going to be fascinating to see how this goes. I'm so into it though. I really, really hope they really hope they don't screw it up. I really hope. But dude, if they can get like AC Shadows level of graphical fidelity, but in Black Flag, dude, I'm here for it. It would be beautiful. I'd be so there for it. But I just hope they aren't relying on the systems and the dynamic stuff that they built over the last handful of years. I really hope they don't just do that. But we'll see. Also, shout out our State of Assassin's Creed video from 4 days ago. We've now surpassed $4,400 raised for the NCMEC. Thank you guys for that. Appreciate you. That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. So shout out to that. But we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. I cannot wait. And I hope we find out soon something. Anything, please. But we'll see. But how do you guys, honest question. What is for you the deal breaker? Like, if they change something, what would be the one thing that you're like, I can't do this, man. For me, it's the cutscenes. If they change the cutscenes, I think I'm I'm going to be a sad, sad boy. I'm open to the combat changes. I'm open to the open world changes because they're apparently going seamless where you can travel from city straight to the sea and you don't need a load screen between them. They're going to be redesigning some of the city's actual layouts to make them more interesting and less samey. Things like that could be really cool. Monetization, that's a good one. Like if they end up just building out a bunch of skins to sell you, that would suck. I agree, that could be interesting. Water, fair. Make Edward modern. Dude, imagine if he shows up in the trailer, they do the announcement trailer, and he's got, where is it there? And like he straight up has the John Highguard haircut. Like imagine it's Black Flag and he's got this shaved side of his head. It's like, oh, what did they do to my boy? What did they do? Don't make that mistake, Ubisoft. If you do the John Highguard haircut, I'm also going to crash out. Keep it the same. Keep it the same. Let's not mess with it, okay? You don't have to do that. Mandatory multiplayer. Well, people forget this era of Assassin's Creed had multiplayer across the board. Like Black Flag, AC3, Unity, like all those games had multiplayer. I don't recall if Rogue did. I don't recall. But like all of those games from that era had multiplayer. It was baller, but it was included in the game as just another mode for you to play. You know, it was very interesting. Rogue did. Okay. I was like, because I can picture the menus of the other games, but for Rogue, I'm like, it's been too long. It's been too long. Rogue was underrated. Yeah, well, it was basically a game. If anybody's like, what the hell is AC Rogue? AC Rogue, just to wrap this up, AC Rogue is a really, really cool game, but it was made circa like 2014. Yeah, 2014 for the 360 and PS3, and it was effectively launched in 2014 as Ubisoft's attempt to bridge the generation. So they had the PS4 launching, and AC Unity was supposed to be the true next-gen game to showcase for next-gen buyers what they were capable of. But then they needed the game to sell to people on the 360 and PS3. That's what Rogue was. So they wanted two games to be able to sell to both audiences, the next-gen players and the previous gen players. So they made two distinct games. And it just ended up with Rogue being completely forgotten, which is too bad because it's legitimately, narratively, probably one of the best that they've ever done. It's really too bad. But yeah, Rogue doesn't get anywhere near enough love. I agree. Not even like a hot take. It's just like, yep. Totally. Yep. Yeah, Shay. Oh yeah, Shay. Oh, Shay. Shay, oh, Shay, oh, hey, oh. Let's see. Phil will return in Rampocalypse 17 times the detail. We can only hope and dream. Wallet the Great. Thank you. Wallet the Great. Wallet the Great. I'm not sure which it is. Thank you for being here, my friend. Appreciate you. Nate, thank you for the super chat. I'm bad. 50 hours in Crimson Desert on PS5 Pro. I'm only halfway through chapter 4. Got the Ice Spear yesterday and bought it on PC yesterday to play so I can play at work. Oh, really? That's baller, dude. That's pretty based. That's pretty based, actually. Glad to hear it. And then let's see. Damn, I'm really 1604 said with a $2 super chat. I imagine Black Flag resynced with the Nemesis system. Dude, don't get my hopes up. Anything with the Nemesis system, I'm already like half-mast. I'm there. Forgive the pun. Jonathan, thank you for the 5. I feel the combat for AC pre-RPG was always like Arkham Light. Rather than hybridize it with RPG, just refine it so it's in line with Arkham. I do think they were at that point where they could have leaned into it fully and done the Arkham thing, where it just fully went free flow. But instead they pivoted towards RPG because I think it made more sense with the big open world that they wanted to do with like Origins. Which honestly, I think makes sense. Like Origins was also built around loot and gear-based, leveling and stuff like that. They did have skill trees in Origins, but they had weapons with specific stats and stuff that would change based on upgrades and everything. So or the level of the weapon. But I think that it probably made sense for the direction they took Origins. But I do think it's too bad that they didn't try at least doing something totally free flow, because free flow has basically been walked away from. Nowadays, the only games mean, it's pretty niche. You don't see a lot of free flow combat games, but there is one coming out. I've talked about it a couple times because I tried it at Summer Games Fest last year, I think it was, and it's called Spine, and it is basically free flow combat but with guns, and it's crazy. I played it, and it's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. So yeah, if you've been looking forward to free flow combat, this one is like dark and crazy and very, very interesting. So definitely add this one to your wish list. Not a sponsor, but if they want to, I'm all ears because I was impressed by it. So just being real, it looks cool. So there you go. Gun Fu. Yeah, that's what they call it. Lego Batman. Yeah, I'm hoping Lego Batman's great, dude. We should hear more about that very soon, I would imagine. Very soon. Let's see. This one, Yaman the Man, thank you for the month of membership. Oh wow, 1 month already. Time flies by. Also, that watch looks nice. What is it? It is a Holzkern. I forgot the exact name of it, but it is a Holzkern wood skeleton watch. So it has, I think, walnut or cherry walnut or something in the actual links, and then it's a skeleton watch so you can see through it. I really like it. I have a number of Holzkern watches. They're a vibe. They're a vibe. I really like them. Display, thank you for the 10. Hey Luke, big fan, very inspiring brother. I want to know your thoughts on the Samson game dropping on the 8th for PC only. Yes, Samson is, I've not done much digging into it, but basically, if you guys are not familiar, based on my understanding, it is a like AA scale game inspired by like old school GTA, Max Payne, like some of those games. And so it's not trying to be GTA light. It's trying to do a much tighter, leaner thing with a smaller budget, a smaller scale. And I think that that could work. It's all about setting proper expectations. The problem is when you spend $250 million trying to make something to compete with GTA, like you're probably just not going to compete with GTA. I'm sorry. It's probably just not going to happen. Like Saints Row, I don't care how good Saints Row is. It's not GTA. No matter how much money you spend on it and how many student loans you accrue, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But this seems to be properly scoped and scaled. The people who have tried it really, really liked it. I've not had the pleasure of trying it myself, but it is one that I am checking out. I do want to follow this one and see what they've got, you know, brought to the table. It does look very interesting. Any type of, like, honestly guys, like I am so in support of smaller teams trying something ambitious that's been abandoned by AAA. Like if there's something like this that's experimental, I'm starting already very, very like open to it because I want these types of games to thrive. And you got to remember, a lot of games from many of the best studios today, they only exist because people tried the clunky first one and gave them another shot. Even though it was not a masterpiece, they gave it another shot. If people had judged CDPR permanently based on The Witcher 1, they probably wouldn't be around anymore because that game was rough. That game was rough. I think Neon Knight, a buddy of mine, he's great. He's great. But one time I was talking to him and I was like, so what's your favorite game of all time? He's like, oh, my favorite game of all time is The Witcher, the first Witcher from CDPR, which is ironic because it's objectively one of the worst games ever made. It was very funny because it was like, yeah, as a video game is rough, man. It's really, really rough. For the story and the world building, it's great, you know? Yeah, Uncharted 1's another example. Dark Souls, another example. KCD, first one, really clunky, didn't run very well. Second game's a masterpiece. It's great. Assassin's Creed's another one. AC1, pretty rough, pretty linear, and, you know, not realizing the full potential. AC2, fantastic. Also a masterpiece, especially for the time. Fantastic. You know, Dying Light for me with Dying Light. Yeah, Dying Light or Techland with Dying Light. Yeah, I mean, Dying Light 2 is fantastic. Dying Light the Beast, I've been having a lot of fun with that one. They overhauled it. If you guys didn't see it, they added a new mode to Dying Light the Beast, which is basically like, it makes all of the zombie deaths permanent. So if you clear out a certain area of the map, the zombies don't just magically respawn. So you can clear out systematically all of the map little by little, which is crazy, but it makes it really cool where you're like, I can go search for supplies over there and I don't have to stress about it. They also made like looting permanent. So like in that mode, if you loot one area, the loot doesn't respawn either. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. It's pretty cool. Okay. Let's do this. Let's talk about this. This one's gonna be really fun. I can already tell. Marshall, thank you for the 2 months again. I might have already called that one out. I'm not sure. Walter, thank you for the membership. Jonathan, thank you for the 5. I feel like combat AC pre-RPG was always Arkham Light. Oh, I did read that one already. Thank you for that. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Okay. Let's do this. Lego Batman's gonna have free flow. Yeah, I hope it's good. I hope it's really good. It looks good. I hope it's good. So this one's gonna be fun. News segment. In the latest episode of Everything Sucks and We're All Sad in the gaming industry, we have an update from Halo Studios. There's drama afoot. I mean, honestly, I genuinely feel really bad for people that are big Halo fans because it feels like there's just never any good news. It feels like every time you hear anything about Halo, it's, oh, they fired a bunch of people and now they're hiring a bunch of AI executives to come in and overhaul their design process with AI tools. That's fantastic. Or, oh, Halo Infinite, the multiplayer is like still a train wreck and they've kind of given up on it. Like there's just always something new, always something new. Well, the latest thing is coming from LinkedIn from somebody that left. We talked about it back when it first happened, but since there has been a clear disclosure of what exactly went down. This article was put together by Windows Central that collected some of these tidbits. As you can see, the title of the article is, quote, "Threatened Retaliation on First Contact." As I dig into former Halo art director's claims, I'm left questioning what else Microsoft didn't want anyone to see, says Adam Hales, published 2 days ago. This art director that left at I believe it was the end of last year, I believe. And it was very, very strange. It wasn't super clear why he left. He was saying that he could talk about it later, had to speak to his attorney and all this. We were like, what is going on? Because he's like a pretty senior guy to just be leaving the studio. Well, former Halo Studios art director Glenn Israel has taken to LinkedIn alleging serious misconduct involving Halo Studios and Microsoft. In his claims, Israel says senior representatives engaged in unethical or unlawful acts, including blacklisting, fraud, favoritism, and cronyism, the act of appointing friends, as well as multiple harassment campaigns aimed at forcing out unwanted employees. For those unaware, Glenn Israel joined Bungie back in 2008 to work on Halo 3 ODST, also working on Halo Reach before joining 343 Industries when it was formed. There's a lot to unpack across Israel's 2 LinkedIn posts, so I will outline all key claims made. This comes around 5 months after his departure, which had already raised concerns online. In the 2-part LinkedIn post, Glenn Israel claims the incidents took place between January of 2024 and June of 25, with his departure following in October of 2025. He states he either witnessed or was directly subjected to alleged misconduct during this period involving senior Halo Studios representatives. Alongside the allegations of unethical and or unlawful acts, Israel says he filed complaints with Microsoft HR in June of 25. He claims that after submitting documented complaints, Global Employee Relations representative, quote, "threatened retaliation on first contact," end quote, and said further investigations would be shut down. He also alleges that complaints escalated internally were later reported as closed, despite being returned as out of scope. Already, the whole point of HR is to handle these types of disputes. That's why it's a whole thing. It's why it exists within companies, is to sort out these types of disputes. And so once that group starts to fall apart and are just shutting things down to quiet people's complaints when things haven't actually been resolved, the whole thing starts to kind of fall apart. He further claims that in August 2025, Halo Campaign Evolved was experiencing what he describes as, quote, "catastrophic mismanagement by senior Halo Studios representatives." During this time, he says the art team from his unannounced project was reassigned and his role was labeled redundant. Israel also details additional incidents between September and October of 2025, where he claims groups such as GER failed to act. He says a director initially agreed to investigate retaliation, but later excluded earlier complaints and related incidents, and further alleges that key witnesses were not interviewed during the process. He also claims Microsoft openly violated RCW 49.12.250 and has not met its penalty obligation. Since the original allegations, other former Halo developers have come forward to defend Israel's claims, suggesting this is definitely not some former disgruntled employee. This is a tweet from Rebs. We've talked about Rebs before, does a lot of good reporting from what I've seen in the game space. He said, former Halo developers are defending Glenn about Halo Studios leadership. They've also witnessed harassment and retaliation. And one says, quote, though there are those who wanted to fire every single artist, and they told me that bluntly. Robin Kane, proficient executive business partner in program management. Spot on. Halo equals harassment and retaliation. I witnessed it, and it happened to me too. Tyler Davis. They definitely did a lot of us dirty to cover up some F-ups up. It's too hard to hold the actual people who make decisions accountable. Those controlling the narrative make it so that it just doesn't work. It's always been the good old boys club of backstabbing, shoulder down, get the F out of my way mentality. I wish the people doing the work, nothing but the best. Some of the management is amazing folk, but there are those who wanted to fire every single artist, and they told me that bluntly. If you need anything, brother, let me know. So you have people that used to work there who are confirming these things directly. It's not great. Not great. This like idea of the boys club is something we've seen in the games industry for years and years and years. Right after, like what was kind of interesting is circa 2020, there was, of course, the whole Me Too movement. And that led to a lot of executive leadership shakeups across the industry. So like, I believe it was Ubisoft saw multiple of their executives depart and get fired after investigations of misconduct and stuff. It happened with Activision, for example. A lot of the teams working on Call of Duty apparently were super toxic, and it was really bad. Blizzard had a lot of problems. Like it's a well-known thing that a lot of different companies went through this process of clearing it out. Bungie is another one where a lot of the people that were working there were also facing allegations of all sorts of stuff. So it's been a thing that the industry has tried to address. It seems like 343 is now facing the same type of thing. I don't know how they would have dodged it years ago, but this makes it sound like it's been ongoing for a long time. Allegedly, of course. Going on, Israel further alleges that Microsoft's HR structure is deliberately compartmentalized to obfuscate responsibility and create plausible deniability. I'm honestly at a loss for words here. The mismanagement of Halo under 343 Industries has been well documented, and hearing that these issues may still be ongoing is concerning. Israel's claims point to a level of misconduct that is difficult to ignore, and if accurate, raise serious questions about how situations like this are handled internally. With new leadership at Xbox under Asha Sharma, there could be increased scrutiny across studios. Ideally, that leads to better oversight and helps prevent situations like this from happening again. This is one thing, like maybe this is the first real clear litmus test for Asha, because it's easy to talk a big game. It's easy to put together a fan meetup. It's easy to do stuff like that. That's just easy brownie points with the fans. But going through and clearing out leadership and like addressing misconduct at one of your most well-known, I was going to say prolific, but I was going to say like biggest and most acclaimed I can't really say that. At one of your studios, clearing out misconduct and managerial misconduct at one of your studios is a tougher task. And so I hope that she actually does review this, because at some point, notorious. Yeah, that's a good word. At some point, where there's smoke, there's fire. And at this point, like 343 has been making smoke for like years and years and years and years. And now there's just even more. This also is specifically interesting hearing what one of these people said. Tyler said, let's see. Yeah, but there are those who wanted to fire every single artist, and they told me that bluntly. That's interesting because one of the things that's been expected is that Halo Studios specifically is going to be utilizing generative AI for like concept art and things like that. It's been one of the major concerns after certain people have left, and they've been implementing new AI tools into their workflows. So it's funny, not funny. It's interesting that he's mentioning that there were people in leadership that specifically wanted to get rid of artists, and they may have just found a way to do that. So anyway, it's absolutely very, very serious claims are being made. And the fact that Israel is specifically bringing up laws and things that he is alleging they have not adhered to, like these are very, very serious accusations that it sounds like he's met with a lawyer about. So I don't think he's just making these willy-nilly. Microsoft did receive a comment regarding the allegations and said, quote, out of respect, we don't publicly discuss individual employees' issues, but we do take all claims seriously for both current and former employees, said a spokesperson. Which means somehow even less than you would think the more you read it. So all of this is like very, very... I think these are serious claims of misconduct, retaliation. When employees go and speak to leadership about problems, those problems are not being addressed or are even specifically being buried with HR ruling that something has been resolved when it hasn't been. That's a big issue because the whole point of HR is to address those issues and fix it, not to bury it. So like these are pretty serious concerns. And I hope that they resolve it ASAP. Personally, I hope they resolve it ASAP, but I think that they need a little bit of transparency considering this is now a very public thing. I think that they should come out and be very, very clear about all of this. So we'll see. But there you go. Luke, HR only exists to protect the company. Well, that's the thing. There's the difference between the idea of HR, the ideal, and what it practically turns into. Because what's being alleged here is that the HR systems have been set up in ways that are compartmentalized to effectively protect the company. Where this guy can say, oh, your complaint wasn't resolved because it was supposed to go to this guy, but this approval didn't happen. So it got clogged up in the paperwork. So it never got resolved. It could be way more efficiently run. But with a company, there's an incentive often. Companies often have incentives to clog up the HR process because disputes are expensive and time consuming and annoying and include drama, you know. If an employee wants this employee fired because they were mistreated because of this, and this, that's a lot of headache. If they can just clog up the process and get the complaining employee to just quit, that's way easier, you know. That's way easier. There's a reason why the stereotype of HR is somebody like Toby from The Office, where he takes down Dwight's complaints, puts it in a box, logs the box away, and he just listens to the complaint, and then people forget and move on. That's unfortunately what a lot of HR turns into. It's not what HR should be. It should be human resources, a way to protect employees against managers so employees can file claims of misconduct and get the leader facing repercussions if they acted out of line. That's what it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, it often just turns into, okay, and then in one ear out the other. But that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's who pays for HR exactly. So of course they would look out for the company. Well, the at least in the US, a lot of HR systems are put in place to protect the company in the case of future like litigation. So let's say if a company doesn't have an HR department, if the company gets sued, the company is like, well, yeah, they sent this complaint email and we didn't really do anything about it. We didn't think they were that serious about the complaint, so oops. And then the company's falling apart and they're going to get a judgment against them. But if you have an HR department, then, you know, you have somebody that can defend the company effectively, or at least the company can say that we tried, which goes a long way with a lot of states. There's different rules within different states for HR stuff. I had a family member who had a business dispute with a former employee. And it was like a specific law in Colorado that was causing all of the disputes and hassle. But if they were based in Texas, I think they said, it wouldn't have been a question. The lawsuit would have been thrown out. And so sometimes it's even dependent on individual state laws and stuff. It's crazy. But anyway, they call it people organizations now, or people operations now. Really? That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Exactly. Guys, something happened. IGN's done it again. They've done it again. I know there's so many ways that could go. But look at these. Look at these. New segment thing. Okay. Look at this. This is a video one of you guys sent over to me, and you're like, Luke, you should check this out because it's about your favorite thing in the world. Starfield, of course. But look at the comments. This is a video from IGN. This guy's back must be killing him from single-handedly trying to hold up IGN. I miss games journalists like this guy. Can we go back to this, please? Used to watch Jim on Video Gamer UK. Had no clue IGN had hired him. Absolute legend.
Caleb's92 donated $20 through Super Chat.
Color me intrigued.
How about this as a compromise? We fire every artist, but also every developer, ever manager, all of our 343. Halo Industries has proven for 16 years they can't make
a good game. Well, if they're like, if this is as widespread as some are alleging, then that might be Microsoft's approach. Like, seriously, like if they're like, this is so core, we've given you guys so many chances and the leadership is a disaster. Maybe our solution is to just like, okay, nobody gets a job. It's literally like one kid is acting up in the back seat and you're like, okay, we're just going to turn around and go home. That's what we're doing. Nobody gets to go to the park anymore. It's literally what they're doing. Okay, let's see what this is. Let's see what this is. Thank you for the 20, Caleb. Very generous. Thank you. Okay, so like I said, all of the comments on this video are like, actually, it has been a long time, I actually think, since IGN made a very good video. Love the guy. Keep him. I'm intrigued. And guess who this is? I believe I know who this is, but he is now making videos specifically, it seems, for IGN. Previously, we've seen his videos for Eurogamer. I think that's where he previously was working. They're owned by the same parent company, I believe, but now he's making stuff specifically for IGN, which is a good move. But I think the fact that you're seeing the comments so positive, I mean, it intrigues me. It intrigues me, you know, color me fascinated. Let's see what he has to say about Starfield. The title of the video is Starfield Can't Be Fixed Even with a 2.0 update, which this isn't. Which I have a feeling I'm going to be snapping in agreement with some of this. Let's see what it is. Let's see why you guys sent me this.
Whatever you do, don't call it Starfield 2.0. At a recent preview event for the big updates and content drops coming to Starfield, Bethesda seemed eager to downplay any comparison to the kinds of extensive overhauls enjoyed by the likes of Cyberpunk 2077, No Man's Sky, or indeed Fallout 76. Personally, I think they're selling it a bit short.
Well, I do think it is fascinating to hear it framed that way, because I think with Todd, sorry, I almost forgot. With Todd, you have to remember that I don't think Todd thinks Starfield has any major problems. I don't think Todd believes that there's anything to really fix in Starfield. So when you ask Todd, is this like a Cyberpunk 2.0? Or is this a No Man's Sky level overhaul? Is this like one of those games that goes from pretty bad to really good? That, I don't think he likes that question. I don't think he likes that framing, because it implies that Starfield is so bad it needs a massive overhaul. It needs salvation. And I don't think Todd likes that. Drink the candle. When I do, you'll never see it. Allegedly. I don't think Todd likes that framing, because again, it implies that there's something wrong. So Todd refusing to call it 2.0, I think is not an accident. I think it's both a matter of maybe a little bit of ego, but also I think this update is going to be smaller than people are expecting, but we'll see.
While the Freelanes update isn't a big ground-up remake of Starfield that magically transforms it into a different game, none of the other things we might be tempted to compare it to are that either. No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk 2077 are still, away from all the hype, largely the same minute-to-minute experiences that they were at launch. Whatever they clamp onto it, Starfield is and will remain Starfield, a space life sim and questing RPG that offers a sci-fi twist on the basic core gameplay that Bethesda have been peddling since Morrowind. The same framework, the same idiosyncrasies, and more or less the same engine. And that would be the Starfield problem you cannot fix by throwing more stuff into it.
But I would also argue that it's significantly less than those older games, because, I mean, you can go through a list. There's been comprehensive ones done by some very talented creators out there who have gone through and outlined all of the things that used to be in Bethesda games that are now not, that have been steadily and systematically removed and stripped out. So I would argue it's even less than what they've been peddling for decades. It's it's even more shallow as a result. But I think that it is a fair point to just bring up that Starfield is Starfield, and adding like a cruise mode is not going to magically fix that, you know. And the thing, again, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, again as we go through this, but Starfield, I thought, and it was leaked a few times, that the Freelanes update, whatever this update was going to be, was going to do things like cruise mode so you could fly between planets within a solar system, and it was going to address the load screen issue going from atmosphere down to the planet's surface. We expected that to basically be like, you go from the atmosphere, you fly down to the planet's surface, and it does like almost like a video that plays over top, like flashing clouds and bright lights, and the jets zoom, and it lights up the screen, and then you load in and land. And so it would still have a load screen. It would just be covered up. Apparently, that's not here. Oops. Apparently it's not here. I had seen people talking about it. I had heard it leaked a number of times. Apparently it's just not there. I don't know if they couldn't get it working and so they cut it. I don't know if it was ever going to be there and people were just saying it was a thing. I don't know. Yeah, this launches tomorrow. April 7th is when this update launches. I think I kind of expect to do a main channel video. I tried Starfield one last time. Because after this, I think this is the last big thing they're going to do. And I think it's fascinating because it's apparently not that big. But I think it's fascinating that the one thing that actually I thought could have like a really clear impact on the player experience was that overhaul to the load screens. Apparently that's just not here.
Overhaul or not, what's coming on April 7th is a suite of crowd pleasers, a bunch of free DLC, a not free but very cheap expansion, the much rumoured PS5 version, and an extension to the ever-popular best-in-class shipbuilder. The Freelanes update is the key thing. It vastly expands the space sim part of Starfield's burgeoning package to include cruise mode, which essentially adds a new layer of game sandwiched between the on-planet stuff and the in-orbit stuff that's already there. Cruise mode allows for manual travel between planets, something which was always technically possible, but pointless, arduous, and infamously broken. Now, it's a cool, fast way of getting around star systems that comes with its own unique challenges and radiant events. Freelanes also adds a new major spaceport in the form of Anchor Point, sure to be a wretched hive of scum and low-tier freelance opportunities like the average Games Journal Discord. Fans of Fallout's Vault Boy bobbleheads, and that's all of us, right, will enjoy the new Colony Wars action figures and associated playsets. A set of interactive toys that give stat boosts. This adorable edition feels like a concession to the idea that Starfield always felt a bit more po-faced than the other Bethesda games. It's certainly the least intentionally goofy, and not in a good way. Bringing back this beloved Fallout feature in this enhanced in-universe toy form brings a sense of sorely missed daftness, but also meaningfully connects Starfield to its much more beloved stablemates. A reminder of why Skyrim in space was such a compelling pitch in the first place. For better or worse, Starfield is every bit a Bethesda game, and we used to love those, warts and all.
Well, I think that people like Bethesda games, but I think one of the problems with Starfield was that they were faced with the challenge of making something truly like original, a brand new IP. Fallout, of course, they bought from, I think it was Interplay or whatever, or Black Isle, whoever owned the rights to it. But they bought Fallout. Elder Scrolls existed back like probably well before the vast majority of current employees started there. It was like mid 90s, I think, when Arena dropped, like 94 maybe when Arena dropped. So, you know, Elder Scrolls is also ancient. So this is like the first time in any practical amount of time that they've actually started from scratch with something. And I think that they were trying to both make it feel like Skyrim in space, but also at the same time give it some unique spin. And what ended up happening was that it just felt weird. It just didn't really have a lot of unique flair to it. It ended up having very little that truly felt unique, which is crazy considering it's a space exploration sci-fi game. You make one unique race of alien that you can meet and boom, memorable, unique. You got it right there. But they couldn't even do that. Like there were just a lot of aspects of it where it just felt like bland. You know, it's the saltine cracker of space games.
All right. So while Freelanes isn't a ground-up redesign, it's a pretty generous update for an almost 3-year-old single-player game that is considered something of a critical flop, a game that feels destined to fade in memory as Bethesda turns its limited attention back to its flagship series. Although,
yeah, well, I'm so interested in how this is going to go. Is it, how much is it?
Warts and all, right?
It's,
So while Freelanes isn't a ground-up redesign, it's a pretty...
So Trackers Alliance is a package of like DLC quests that you pay for. So this is paid. It's like a paid mod package of quests and stuff. In my experience, they're like 20 to 35 minutes each, depending. And that includes like travel time from location to location with load screens and everything. Maybe some of the new ones are longer. I'm not sure, but that's what you're getting for this. This, I believe it was a Trackers Alliance quest also, where I bought it for like $7 and did the quest, and it rewarded you with a sniper rifle, and it was bugged and you couldn't reload it. So you got 4 shots and then it was bugged on your save file. And they had to fix it through a patch that happened like months later. We made another video like a month and a half later or 2 months later, and it was still broken, which is crazy. But yeah, I believe it was one of those. So this is like paid quests that they do, but official. So from Bethesda. Freelanes is free. This is the cruise mode update that they're adding with that system to go through. So this will just happen to your game automatically. And then Terran Armada, this is apparently, it's like $10. And it adds these new robot humanoids. My personal expectation based on what I've read and seen about this is that it basically is a new class of enemies with its own set of like 3 or 4 dynamic encounters when you're flying or when you're doing this or that, where they'll show up, they might spawn on a planet surface, and it's just a new group to kill. As far as I can tell, there's probably like 1 or 2 scenes setting up them. But I don't think it's like an actual expansion. So I maybe it ends up being way more than I think it is, but I think it's going to be way less than most people think it is. I think it's basically just a new dynamic set of enemies that will spawn after you get through the initial like initial scene setting them up as a new adversary. But I'm expecting this will be fairly small, which is why it's only $10.
Generous update for an almost 3-year-old single-player game that is considered something of a critical flop, a game that feels destined to fade in memory as Bethesda turns its limited attention back to its flagship series. Although it...
Yes, I do. Hearing it described as a critical flop is interesting because it reviewed okay among game journalists. It reviewed okay, but I think that what is very clear is that for the standard, like more typical, meet them on the street type of gamer, the reputation of Starfield is not what they wanted it to be. You can go back and see interviews from 2022 and 2023 before the game launched of Todd and Emil describing it as like, one day we hope to be known as well for Starfield as we are for Elder Scrolls and Fallout. And maybe that did happen, but I don't think it happened in the way they wanted it to. When people bring up Starfield in gaming discourse today, it's almost always in the context of something that was a swing and a miss, something that's, a mile wide, an inch thin, something that shows how if you fall behind in tech in gaming, your whole game can be screwed over by it, how important technological innovation and updates are, how important it is to keep up with the competition, technologically speaking. I think the framing of Starfield has, without a doubt, been negative for the vast amount of discourse. And, the constant pivots and attempts to reframe it as like, no, that's just Twitter. I think that's maybe naive. I think that's it. The meme of Starfield has certainly pierced, I think, the mainstream veil for a lot of people. It's fun or not, thing for the 5. Honestly, my biggest problem with the game is it feels inherently lazy, like them being so unoriginal with the Starborn mechanic. That one did genuinely baffle me. Like the fact that and it's the same location. If you haven't played Starfield, basically there's like these what do they call them? There's these sites on different planets where you can acquire these Starborn abilities, and it's like they call it Starborn, but it's basically Dragonborn abilities, just like in Skyrim, and it's just straight up magical abilities where you can just Fusro Da people or go zero gravity, with a blast or whatever. Temples, yeah, I think temple. I was like, it's like archaeology, temple, something. Yeah, I think you're right. But and it's the same location. It's the same temple, copy and pasted every single time. And the mini game when you're inside where you float to the star like in the room is the exact same every time. And so it's just really, really lazy. It's just lame, man. It's just lame. It's the definition of copy paste. I mean, literally, it's copy paste in the sense that the locations are the same, mini games the same every single time. It doesn't get more challenging the more those abilities you get, like at all. It marks them for you, if I recall correctly. So you just are fast traveling around to pick them up and collect them. And it's basically the same abilities as Skyrim had. And so it's like, what is the unique element here? You know, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So not even a dungeon. Yeah. What would have been cool, and what I think most studios would have done, is like, say you get an ability that makes it so you can Fus Roda stuff. You get that ability, and then you have to escape the temple as it collapses using that ability to get through various puzzles or parkour or whatever, right? It's like, oh, now you're locked in a dungeon. You have to find a way to use that ability in a clever, unique way. But one of my biggest frustrations with Starfield was that they have all of these mechanics, but because of how they built the game and how their systems are set up and their processes are set up, it's all done in isolation. So they have a developer who's coming up with a quest to place dynamically on a planet. But they don't know if you're going to have these Starborn abilities when you reach that point. So the Starborn abilities are never utilized in gameplay other than in the Shattered Space expansion. There's a moment where you use it to like lift trash up with the zero gravity physics and stuff. You can do stuff like that. But in the base game, because they didn't know what you'd have and when, it's just never really utilized. You know, it just doesn't work as well. And so I think it's just too bad. But that's why, like, I've talked to people who are like, oh, I didn't even mess with the Starborn abilities. I remember getting a couple. I didn't even use them. Like, there were people that played all of Starfield and never touched those things. They got them as part of the story, well, like when you need to go to the sites, but they weren't using them actively in gameplay or anything. I think the only innovation is New Game Plus, that it fits with the narrative. Yeah, I do think that the New Game Plus system was a clever way of doing it. It was genuinely a clever way. And as I've said from the moment the game launched, the ship customization is fantastic. I love ship customization in all sorts of games, but they do it very, very well in Starfield. And I'll die on that hill. I think they did a great job with it. Whoever did that needs a raise. But you know, it just sucks when you're talking about like a massive AAA game. Excuse me, a massive AAA game, and you can only point to like one or two things that they did really well. It's too bad.
It must be pointed out that Starfield was not, as is commonly believed, a commercial failure. But chucking more stuff into Starfield emphatically fails to address the game's commercial. It must be pointed out that Starfield was not, as is commonly believed, a commercial failure. But
yeah, this is one thing I often have to remind people. As far as I can tell, of course, we don't have sales numbers or anything. But as far as we can tell, the metrics that Microsoft cares about most with Game Pass is hours played. Starfield was, at launch, a behemoth when it came to hours played. It makes sense. Microsoft for Game Pass, they want you to play on Game Pass for as long as you can to keep you from going over to the other platforms and spending money and time. So hours played is their primary metric. And the data they've revealed publicly was wild. I think it was a couple of weeks after Starfield launch, Todd said that their average playtime was like 40 hours, which is insane. I don't think, maybe not a couple of weeks. It was like 6 months later, because that wouldn't even make sense if it was 40 hours after a week or two. But really, really impressive stats. The people that played it a ton, and that pulled the average time up a lot. So for Microsoft's metrics, I think it was successful. And as for like success on Steam, it did well. I mean, they peaked at like 300 something thousand concurrents on Steam alone. And that was in the early access period. That was when people were only playing if they paid $100 for it. Right. So I think they made a lot of money on Starfield. I think it was successful. Did it do damage to the brand and everything and to the studio's reputation? I think so. But monetarily, I think it was successful. Absolutely. So yeah, anybody who's like Starfield flopped, not by any definition of flopped that I'm aware of.
Chucking more stuff into Starfield emphatically fails to address the game's most critical underlying issue. Not a lack of stuff, but how it is organized across vast tracts of nothing.
Yeah, and
Long-serving
presented.
Bethesda producer Tim Lamb started the recent press event with an awkward, half-joking acknowledgement of the fact that Starfield is seen as, in his words, irresponsibly big. A game with Skyrim's amount of stuff spread thinly across hundreds of planets, whereas most Bethesda adventures are stuffed precariously into a tiny continent like a suitcase full of octopuses. Starfield ekes its handcrafted quests out like a disorganized dad, scratching molecule-thin layers of the last of the margarine over some toast with a toothpick. That's a tortured metaphor. One might argue, as I have on this very channel, that Starfield could have done with being a lot smaller, but you can't make it smaller in updates. It's already there in all of its empty vastness.
True. I mean, Starfield is a phenomenal example of how framing and presentation of content is often just as important as the content itself. If you have a flood of interesting content, but you make it really difficult to engage with, players are going to feel disenfranchised. They're not going to feel that compelled to go through it. They're going to be frustrated. Even to a certain extent, we've seen this with Crimson Desert. Now, Crimson Desert has a crap ton of content, tons of unique bosses and encounters. And I mean, nobody's ever said, well, actually IGN literally said that. They said they wish there was more to find in the world while exploring, which is that's a crazy take. But I think most normal human beings have never said Crimson Desert struggles with amount of content, but a lot of people have been frustrated with how it's presented in the first 3 chapters, where the first 3 chapters are really slow, they're kind of dry, and they really take a while to get going. But once you get past the first 3 chapters, it opens up and everybody's like, oh, I get it now, it clicks. But that's why it's really important how you frame and present the stuff you've built to your customers and players. Otherwise, they might just disconnect and be like, I'm not feeling it. It's important. And I think it's something that Starfield just not just swung and missed. Like they swung, missed, and then hit the Empire in the head. Like they just totally bungled that.
And so the only way forward is to put more stuff in while neatly addressing the other big criticism of Starfield, that it's a space sim which doesn't bother to actually simulate space. Freelanes certainly goes some way to addressing that, and I can't wait to start a fresh game on PS5 Pro, but expectations must rightly be tempered, because this is a game operating right on the outer limits of what is possible with Bethesda's tech. And I don't...
Yeah. And I think it's also, I think, to their credit, I think they looked at Starfield and realized, they being the studio, and they just realized for us to make Starfield into the game that are the people that don't like it, to turn it into a game they would like, would be such an overhaul. It's basically a sequel. So let's just not. And instead, let's find what the people who already like it want and give them more of what they want, because they're going to keep playing and spending money on creations and stuff like that. Which I can understand that decision. I'm frustrated by it, as somebody that didn't really connect with the game, that thinks there's a lot of potential that's untapped and all this. I'm frustrated by that, but I understand the decision. And if I were in charge of the studio, I could see myself landing in the same spot where it's like, people are already pissed with us for taking so much time to make Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. Do we really want to spend 2 or 3 years basically overhauling everything about Starfield to get it so Luke makes a nice video? Like, do we really want to do that? We already made bank, and I think that's where they're at. It just didn't really make sense.
At TT Thicolas donated $19.99 through Super Chat.
Thank you, my friend.
Praise be to Todd. He has risen and now will deliver our wallets from us the day after Easter. Remember, guys, this just works. Keep the faith.
Yeah, it does just work. And anybody who says otherwise is banned. Oh, you're waiting for the joke? You're waiting for the punchline? There isn't. Todd has risen the price of DLC over years and years and years, and you're going to like it. Okay? Yeah, got it? Good. Continuing.
want this to come across as a rant about how Bethesda should change their engine. I don't think it's as simple as that. I don't even think that's possible. The creation engine gets a lot of flack for always being a generation behind. You hear it constantly, you see it on social media constantly, people asking, why don't Bethesda change their engine? Why are they still using Gamebryo? They own id Tech 8, why can't they use that? Well, have you ever thought about why Bethesda's games are so distinctive? Their tech is a cell-based system that treats every space as a separate room, compartmentalizing the entire game world into a hierarchy similar to a directory tree. You've got a vast overworld, which is like your root directory, and from there you can enter cities, then individual buildings, dungeons, cellars, whatever. Every time you transition into a new room or cell, the game flushes your current environment out of memory and loads in a new one. And that's why Bethesda's games are characterized by the dreaded loading screens. It's not an engine designed for the kind of seamless world streaming that allows for something like Crimson Desert or Red Dead 2, where assets are loaded in and flushed out dynamically depending on where you are and where you're looking. It's why NPCs in Bethesda games do that characteristic thing of fading to nothing when they go outside instead of opening the front door and stepping through. They're dematerializing from the current environment and materializing in the next one. The advantage for Bethesda to stick with this...
Yeah, and I think that this is the interesting thing, is that yes, there are benefits to Creation Engine and things that it can do that other engines can't. That is true. But whether those things it can do are what gamers want is a separate question. You know, that's a separate question. And so like Bethesda's Creation Engine can do physics simulation on 15,000 sandwiches in a single room. It can do that. Does anyone give a crap? I'd probably a few people, but like, are people willing to sacrifice everything else for that? Like, I think when people think of the next generation fantasy open world game, they're thinking of the scope and scale and technology that we've seen in something like Crimson Desert. They're not expecting what you are probably going to get, which is a structure and format similar to like what Fallout 4 had, where you go in buildings, you need to load in. And I think that that's just something that maybe like is not truly appreciated. And I think also at this point, you got to remember that a lot of Bethesda's tool sets and everything have been built around the Creation Club. They have a massive amount of money that flows in because of modders that are selling stuff through their games after they launch them, years after they launch them. And to change over to like Unreal or something is so extremely like labor intensive and would require all of that stuff to basically be abandoned. They'd be leaving like half of their annual revenue on the table. You know, I just don't think it makes sense. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, we perfectly modeled airflow and weather patterns so we can implement accurate, realistic pollen counts because your character is allergic to pollen. Yeah, but all it leads to is like when you're playing the game randomly, your player's vision fogs up. And so people are like, oh, my game is rendering poorly. No, it's not a bug, it's a feature. Well, nobody wants it.
Tech, when there are seemingly better alternatives out there, is that it allows them to build huge worlds and fill them with intricately scripted quests, fully simulated towns and...
Well, wait, intricately scripted quests? Have you played Starfield? Have you played? I'm going to cover Todd's ears when I say this. Okay, I'm just going to cover his ears when I say this. Okay, there. Well, don't want to cover his face. I want to be respectful. Have you played Starfield? Intricately scripted? Bro. It's like fetch quests. Like, I need a cup of coffee from this star system 50,000 light years away. We don't have coffee here that I like. Go defy the laws of physics for me. I'm thirsty. Like, what are we doing? It's, you know, I think years ago you could say that there were unique things. This is why I think it's important to establish that, like, what they've removed from the Creation Engine is important. What they've removed from their games is important. Because when they had like Radiant AI, imagine if they had built on that in Fallout 4 and then Fallout 76 and then into Starfield. If they had built on it and spent a decade or 2 decades, basically, from Oblivion, I guess, and going to Skyrim. Imagine if they had spent that time building out Radiant AI and NPC behaviors and schedules and things to make worlds feel living and breathing. Then you could have legitimately groundbreaking features that you could not have anywhere else. And then I think people would be okay with there being loading screens. Because I think if you're bringing something fantastic to the table, people are okay if there's some other stuff that's not as good. If you have an amazing Easter ham, I think people are okay if the green beans are a little bland. But when the whole table spread is just kind of bland and you forgot to bring the ham, and then also the green beans, you open the wrong can and it's actually peaches, people are going to be like, what is going on? You know, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I think that that's why, as they've removed stuff down to simplify and streamline the game, it's left a lot of the old school fans disenfranchised and frustrated, because we're like, dude, all you had to do was make Skyrim, but modern tech wise, and we would have been happy. But you couldn't do that. Instead, it's probably going to have a lot more stuff cut out of it, you know? Peach beans, exactly.
Cities and barrel loads of interactive parsnips.
Yeah, they stopped offering the positive side of the trade-off. Yeah. Well, and to be clear, just so people don't think I'm bullying BGS, even though I get it. Ubisoft has done this too. Assassin's Creed is a fantastic example because it's so clear cut with what they've done with like parkour, where parkour, you look back at some of the clips of parkour in AC Unity, and then you compare it to what you saw in like Valhalla. And it's like laughable. It's laughable how much they cut out. Why? Like, for what reason? I guess because they felt they didn't need it because you weren't in big cities. So maybe there's some memory benefit. You cut that out, you can have more complicated combat move sets or something, maybe something like that. But either way, it's very clear that they're removing stuff, and gamers are just they're sick of it. Like, I get it that sometimes stuff is cut out because it allows you to do other things. The key is that other thing needs to be something gamers actually want and appreciate. Because if you're cutting out cool parkour, but you're replacing it with like, oh, the foliage on trees is denser now. Well, if gamers don't really care about that, it doesn't really matter. You know, they're still going to leave less excited than they would have if you had good parkour, you know? Like, the total offering is important. The total offering is important. And that's just something that I think has kind of been left behind. And I think for years and years, a lot of studios thought, we don't need to like really be groundbreaking. It just has to be good enough. Nowadays, that doesn't work anymore. I mean, we've seen it. You can spend $200 million on an open world game, and it could be good, like even pretty solid, but it needs to be amazing to compete. Because especially now, you're starting to compete against like, you know, Pearl Abyss, which again, maybe you've not connected with Crimson Desert. I feel for you. I'm sorry. Because I love it. But even if you don't connect with the game, I think you can acknowledge that their pace of updates and changes and overhauls is insane. Like, it really does make other studios look like they're not even trying. They got feedback. Oh, this isn't working quite right. Okay, we fixed it. Oh, this thing kind of broke. Okay, within 10 minutes, we have the patch to make the horse summon work again. Like, fixed it. Like, it's crazy. But anyway.
Fully simulated towns and cities, and barrel loads of interactive parsnips very quickly and easily.
Yeah, they used to simulate cities. Now, I have, there's probably a term for it, but I think if players can't tell if something is simulated, like if players' perception, that's what I think ultimately matters, okay? That's what ultimately matters. So like if we have something like imagine a box, okay? We have a box. And inside the box is something awesome. I'm going to tell you, okay? So like Ubisoft tells you, this city is fully simulated, okay? Fully simulated. If I can't tell it's fully simulated, like why would I care? Or maybe a better example, let's use a real one. Okay, let's use a real one. A candle, a real example. This is better. Forget the box. Forget the box. We'll do it live. Forget the box. I have a candle. I could tell you that this has been scented by the grand wizard of candle making in Romania, well-known candle capital of the world. And it's been scented with saffron, fine spices. They dug up Alexander the Great's tomb and took some of the wrappings and infused the scent of his musk into the candle. They did all these crazy things. You're telling me all of this. And maybe it's true. But let's say I get the candle and I smell it. And it smells like an armpit. None of the other stuff matters. None of the other stuff matters. I don't care how much saffron you put in it. I don't care what mummy wrappings you used in it. I don't care. Because as the customer, I'm dissatisfied. Okay? I don't like it. And so with something like this, if you're telling me like, oh, the city is fully simulated and we have all of these dynamic items that have gravity realistically simulated on them. Okay. But if my impression after playing it is that it's just lifeless and boring, that's all that really matters. You know, it's like when Todd was saying, when you're playing Starfield, if you see a planet in the distance, that's actually being simulated in the solar system and rotating in real time, realistically. Okay. But if it looks and feels like just a boring backdrop that has nothing to do with anything I'm doing, was that worth sacrificing like the gore system? Because I don't know if you realize Starfield doesn't have any gore. They cut that too out of Fallout. They had it in Fallout 4, cut all of the gore out for Starfield. There's barely blood effects. You know? It's like there's just a lot of things where it doesn't really matter how cool the bells and whistles under the hood are. If the car still drives like crap, it doesn't matter what you did to it under the hood. You know, maybe there's purists who will appreciate what they're doing, but for the average consumer that's just playing a game, they just want the fries put in the bag. You know, they just want the fries put in the bag at the end of the day. Like, what are we doing?
And over the years, they've gotten very good at streamlining the process. Lots of incidental details and world interactions are automated. For example, if an NPC's patrol route takes them near a source of heat, they'll stop and warm their hands. And that's a baked-in behavior in Elder Scrolls that's triggered by context, which the quest designer doesn't have to worry about. It's built in. And there's also the advantage of being able to track thousands, even millions of fully simulated physics objects across the entire game, which is much more difficult to do in streaming based engines, which is why in the Elder Scrolls you can leave a pie on the floor somewhere and it will very likely stay there until the end of time, while GTA has cars and pedestrians that disappear forever if you happen to look away. To be clear, this is a layman's understanding. I'm not a game dev, and I'm certainly not saying there's a right or wrong way to make an open world game. Every different
well, yeah, it's there's different strokes for different folks, as they say. But I think it's important to understand that for certain types of games, different framings and different technologies work better. So like for GTA or Red Dead, having like the creation engine would be the wrong technical choice for that type of game, in my opinion. Okay. It's why I've said previously that I think for Starfield, the creation engine is probably the worst engine they could have possibly used. Because I think the vision of Starfield is this like massive universe, free to explore, this sense of wonder and astonishment. But to build it with a tool set that requires each individual cell on the planet to be simulated. And apparently I had a modder explain it to me. Apparently the way that it does it is it creates a texture for the planet. And when you pick a landing spot on the planet to land on, how it generates the fishbowl for you to go into is by locating the pixel you selected. So the resolution of the texture on the planet is the resolution of the fishbowls, if that makes sense. Very, very interesting. But it's like, I think for the type of game they wanted to make, the creation engine was just the worst choice. And usually it's like, do you put the cart before the horse or vice versa? You know, like you've got to, I think, decide what type of game you're going to be making based on the technical capabilities of your studio. And that's why I think if you're going to use the creation engine, the better option would have been to go and be like, we're going to stay in this solar system and we're going to like fully generate 3 planets, You know, we'll give you like Earth, maybe you can go to Mercury. We say Venus exploded, Mars, like we'll give you a few planets to go to. And of course they're scaled down, but we're going to simulate all of those and then hand place stuff, allow you to fly on the planet, do something like that. I think the way that they built Starfield was just, it highlighted the weaknesses of the creation engine instead of the strengths. And that's part of the reason that it's regarded the way that it is.
Way of achieving something has pros and cons. Creation 3 would suck for building GTA, and conversely, Rockstar's Rage engine would suck for building Elder Scrolls, not least because one of those things isn't a Bethesda technology that they've been using and honing and refining for nearly 30 years. There is an argument that perhaps Bethesda should ditch all the granular physics stuff that allows them to build all those lived-in spaces full of interactive world clutter, and maybe, I don't know, reduce the scope of their games a bit so they can put them out more regularly in a newer engine. Luckily, we have a case study for that.
Well, yeah, but I would also say these things don't exist in a vacuum, right? So if Bethesda's competitive advantage is those lived-in spaces with dynamic objects that have gravity simulated on them and physics simulated, like if that's their competitive advantage, that goes away once it's no longer an advantage. And what we've seen with like games like Crimson Desert is that no, they can also do that. Like they can also do that with even more dynamism. With like in Elder Scrolls, do you think you're going to be able to chop down trees and like use them to body slam bosses and stuff? Do you think that you're going to be able to light fires and watch it burn down wood structures? Are you going to like, do we really expect that to be the case? Probably not. Like all of a sudden the competitive advantage has gone away and they're so far behind all of these other areas that it kind of spoils the fun. I think maybe a way of thinking about this, again, I'm sorry, I'm a visual thinker. And so when I think, I see in pictures. And so often drawing things out helps. But if you imagine that there's like a bunch of individual like points, and maybe each of these, you know, one dot is like graphics and one dot is sound design. One dot is like open world simulation stuff with NPCs or whatever. And we break it down and we say like, okay, creation engine, we'll put in blue. It's like at these levels for each of these systems and each of these things that it's doing. But if we look at another engine, you know, we'll say like, oh, the physics simulation. Super competitive advantage. It's really good at that. Radiant AI, it's really good at those dynamic behaviors and stuff. And so we say like this is where it's at. And so the general chart is, you know, boo, 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 boo. If you think of each feature individually. The moment that this is either regarded as not that important and nobody cares, or if somebody else comes along and does it better, but maybe has a line like this for their engine's capabilities, there's no reason to go with the creation engine anymore. And this feels all the more behind the times because the one competitive advantage you had either no longer applies or nobody cares about, or somebody else has done it just as well. And so all of a sudden, like, can you justify now why these are so low? Can you justify now why your graphics pipeline is so much worse than the competition's? Can you justify why, you know, your load screens are such a low priority compared to the competition? You know, because this was the excuse for a long time, was that this was so good that it justified those being bad. But once that's no longer an excuse, you're kind of screwed. There's no justification.
Obsidian's Avowed is the closest thing we have to an Elder Scrolls game built in a modern engine, in this case Unreal 5.
Tainted Grail also is very, very good.
And everyone thought it kind of sucked, in part because it wasn't as interactive as Oblivion was.
Did people, I mean, I know some people were like raging about it. I didn't think it sucked. I thought it was like pretty good. Like it's not a masterpiece or anything, but I don't think the devs would have claimed it's a masterpiece. But I thought it was pretty good. It was fun. It was a good AA kind of fantasy game. Like if you're going into it expecting Elder Scrolls 6, like yeah, you're gonna not have a great time. But I didn't think it was like terrible or bad or anything.
Was 20 years earlier. There are things intrinsic to a Bethesda game that you just can't remove before it stops being a Bethesda game. But there are obviously hard limits to what you can do with a system designed to organize a vast world into tiny, distinct chunks. And it's clear that Starfield is a massive square peg of an idea trying to fit into the round hole of Bethesda's technical capabilities. You can practically see the bones of Morrowind creaking to accommodate its ambition.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. My point is just that if you know that you have a square hole, or a circular hole. If you know your hole is round, bear with me, okay? Insert jokes, whatever. If you know your hole is round, don't try to make a square peg. Make one that glides in a little easier. You know, you have the choice. They got to choose what they did and what they didn't do. They knew their hole was round. And yet they chose to shove a screwdriver in sideways. Okay? Peg? Help me understand.
Entire planetary surfaces are separated into a vast grid of square cells. This is obviously a massive oversimplification, but essentially, a planet in Starfield is like an Oblivion mansion with millions and millions of doors. Cruise mode looks like it's more or less a giant room where you fly around a diorama of a solar system. Interdictions that take you back into normal space do so with a very obvious bokeh blur dissolve that really doesn't hide the join all that well. Making a space game with Bethesda's tech would be like trying to build, I don't know, a government website out of WordPress. Possible with caveats. Cramming a space sim into a framework designed very specifically to make Elder Scrolls games was always going to be something of a bodge job. They're doing the game design equivalent of building a car with nothing but garden tools. The fact that it gets anywhere at all is quite remarkable.
Sure. It doesn't mean people have to like it, though. And I think that it is, like, I don't think Todd's lying when he says that they had to do a ton of work to get the creation engine capable of making Starfield run. I think that's genuinely true. And I do think they spent years building it out, getting it working. I think that's true. But it still just is not there. Because, again, it's an engine built around a very particular type of game, and Starfield is like the prime example of a game that is antithetical to most of what those those core games are. Like, it just, the concept is cool. That's why I think there's a version of Starfield that would have been amazing, but I think you would need the seamless tech of something like a No Man's Sky to make it work.
Though it's Bethesda's most forward-thinking game in spirit, in practice it's a massive regression, a throwback to the procedurally generated vastness of Daggerfall, a game so big it felt tiny, boasting a landmass twice the size of actual Great Britain but with nowhere near enough intrigue to fill a shed in Swindon. It could also have been described as irresponsibly big. Its sequel, Morrowind, the game that put Bethesda on the map and provides the template for their games to this day, made a point of being entirely handcrafted. Not even a single percentage point of the size of Daggerfall, it nonetheless felt enormous because its map could barely contain all of the intricate adventures within. Back then, Bethesda learnt the lesson that less is more, but it seems to be a lesson it is eager to forget. Starfield isn't anyone's favourite Bethesda game, it certainly isn't mine, Morrowind need you ask, but I admire it for how close it gets to an ideal that should be entirely out of the question. If nothing else, it's a masterclass in making do. Freelanes isn't a do-over or an overhaul or even something that makes Starfield palatable for those who bounced off it before, but it does add a rich new set of features and intrigue to a game that many of us desperately want to love because, for all of its shortcomings, it is Skyrim in space. And even after we've been presented with a gigantic neon sign that says Skyrim in space doesn't work, it remains a most enticing prospect. And if you want to find out exactly how Freelanes and all the new DLCs coming keep Starfield fresh, check out our preview. And as always, keep it IGN.
Okay, but IGN. Good video. I like him a lot. I think that them hiring him, and it seems like they might have even moved him over from Eurogamer fully, which I think is cool. But I think that it's, like I said at near the top, I think that they just got in this spot where it was pretty clear that they either I think they could overhaul it and get it so people like you and me would enjoy it again, or they could just double down on what it is and move forward. And I think that at least is a decision that makes sense. As for like the future of Bethesda, I think that they're facing an uphill battle. Let's be perfectly honest. Like, going into Elder Scrolls 6, expectations have never been higher. The standards are higher than ever. And now we are going to be getting, and we are currently getting, fantasy games that raise that bar further. When you look at RPGs, we've gotten games like Baldur's Gate that raise the bar. When you look at something like, or even like Witcher 3, which of course was a decade ago, but that still is going to be compared to it. If you look at open world games, we've got games like Crimson Desert, which are, though far from perfect, they show how a modern open world game can work and how crazy ambitious and technologically insane it can be. And so all of these bars are being raised. And I think Bethesda, their best course of action is to just go back to basics and focus on what they do well and try to avoid the things they don't do well. Bethesda's just not able to keep up in terms of the tech. So don't try. Don't like, I think, well, that sounds bad. Don't act like you are keeping up with the behemoths when you're not. Like, don't piss them on my back and tell me it's raining, you know? Focus on what you're good at, which for them is environmental storytelling. For them, it's the sandbox gameplay. And I think they should go back to the core fundamentals that made a game like Skyrim truly fun and enjoyable. Whether they will try to do that or not remains to be seen. Todd has described, there was an interview years ago where he was asked, I think it was circa like 2012, 2013, somebody asked him, I think it's in the Starfield Saga video I did. Somebody asked him, what is the Elder Scrolls 6 going to be? And Todd said, well, for each Elder Scrolls game, we know what the concept is, like what the main feature is going to be. And so for Oblivion, it was the fidelity that they wanted to achieve, the forests and things like that. For Skyrim, it was dragons. It was all about dragons. And he said, I know what the concept is for Elder Scrolls 6. Our technology currently can't do it. I don't know what that would have been in 2013, but he apparently had the idea in 2013 of what that would be. My personal suspicion is that it's basically the base building stuff. It's going to be build your own castle, you know, and then you can recruit people to come and work in your castle, work in the kitchen, work in the armory, and they'll repair your armor for you. I think it's going to be stuff like that. That's my personal expectation. I think that's the natural progression of what they did. From where they started with Skyrim and then where Todd would want to end up. So my guess is that Skyrim or Elder Scrolls 6 rather is going to be built around that core mechanic. And I think that's something that they do well. And I think that could work. Build your town or a castle. Yeah, it might have upgraded since they've already built out, like building a castle I think would be really easy for them with the Fallout 76 stuff and the settlement systems and everything with Fallout 4 and Starfield. I think they could build a castle very easily. So maybe the way to take it up a notch is build a town, or if it's a castle, then it's like the surrounding, sheds and shops and stuff that you could place. And I think that could be legitimately a really cool mechanic, especially if you build out the settlement system and that's a core gameplay mechanic that motivates you to go through the world to find new blacksmiths. Imagine like the guides. Did you know the best blacksmith for Elder Scrolls 6 is located in these mountains? You just have to go into this cave and talk to this vendor and hire him and bring him this item, which will bring your bond with him to 100. Like, I can see it now. I think that that's probably where they focus. And if they focus on that, that could be good. And people might overlook the fact that there's still going to be load screens when you go into caves. There's still going to be load screens when you go into buildings. Like, I think people will overlook that if there are legitimately fun and engaging gameplay loops that keep you hooked. My fear is just, like, in the past, Bethesda doesn't seem to appreciate what they're good at and what they're bad at. And so they get in these spots where they get themselves in trouble. Like, they try to punch above their weight class with certain things, you know? Like, I think for Starfield's a great example of they're capable of this, but they tried to do that. And because their tech couldn't keep up with that vision and ambition, a lot of people, it just fell flat, you know? Because when you put yourself into that realm, you're competing against the Star Citizens, the No Man's Skies, the Elite Dangerouses. And if you can't keep up with them in certain factors, it just makes you look bad, you know? So we'll see what it's like. But I think they hopefully understand the assignment. And, you know, Todd, in a recent interview, he described Elder Scrolls 6 as like, well, he described, I think, Starfield as something to the effect of like, you know, it was a cool divergence from our normal way of doing it, but Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be much more like our classical games. 6, maybe this. Yeah, this is it. Twisted Voxel did a report. Let's see. Todd Howard has offered a fresh update on Elder Scrolls 6. Quote, everybody knows why we announced it that way. It's not knows that we announced it that way. Okay, current state of development. It's going well. We are happy with it. It is going to be a while yet. We are happy with where we push the technology and how the game is coming together. We are able to play it. We have passed major milestones internally. The majority of the studio is on the game. And then he said, as we come back to Elder Scrolls 6, we're coming back to that kind of classic style that we have missed and that we know really, really well. We spent the last several years bringing Creation Engine 2, which powered Starfield, up to Creation Engine 3. That is going to power Elder Scrolls 6 and beyond. We are really happy with the new rendering and world systems and how we bring the detail close to the camera immediately. This one, I remember Todd saying this. Honest question, chat. What do you think this even means? Because Todd said this, and I don't know what it means. We are really happy with the new rendering and world systems and how we bring detail close to the camera immediately. How we bring detail close to the camera immediately. Is that just talking about load times? Is that DLSS? Maybe DLSS 5 is what he's talking about. I don't know, man. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. How we bring detail close to the camera immediately. That to me thinks like, okay, quick movement, maybe fast traversal. So like you can warp to places quickly. I don't know, man. I don't know what that even means. Because DLSS, it's like, oh, how we can bring more detail close to the camera. That could be DLSS 5. But he says immediately, which is like speed. So I don't know why, like that doesn't have anything to do with DLSS 5. I don't know. We'll be able to zoom. That's the big new feature. Hold down right trigger and he'll lean in. You can run really effing fast. Maybe that's what it is. It could be like I've done this where I'll start talking and then I have like what I want to say in my head, but then I like stumble on my words and it ends up just not really making any sense. Maybe that's what that was, where Todd's just like trying to say something. We're really happy with the new rendering and world systems and how we, bring detail closer to the camera immediately. Maybe that's what it was. LOD's loading. It could be that. Like they've tried to specifically address pop-in. Maybe that's it. I don't personally recall pop-in being terrible in Fallout 4 even. Like even in Starfield, it wasn't really a big problem with pop-in, but maybe that's what he's referring to. I think that could make sense, like higher levels of detail when you're close to the camera, so that could be LODs. Maybe I can see that. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just weird. Pop-in in Crimson Desert is awful. Pop-in in Crimson Desert is it's, if it makes you feel better, it was worse at launch, but there are times where it, like specifically there's little like bitty particles on the ground, like little rocks and stones, and for some reason when you raise model detail in the settings, it happens more. So like the higher your level of detail is, the more those things pop in as you're running. You eventually like tune it out really, really quickly, but it does happen. It does happen. Another way of saying there's more detail, just like 16 times the detail. Dude, basically. I think Todd now is way more aware of how anything he says, if it is a soundbite, will get clipped and turned into a meme. So now he's like very cautious not to say things in that really snippy, zappy way that he used to do. Have you noticed that? Like, when was the last big Todd meme? I think it was 16 times the detail in 2018. Like, even with Starfield, there wasn't really a clear one like that, It just doesn't really work. Damn, Todd's no fun no more. Yeah, I mean, literally. Dare I say, widowy. But anyway, yeah, lots of fun to be had with Starfield. I agree, it's not going to magically change it, but I do think that they understand the assignment moving forward, and I hope that they actually understand and appreciate that truly and fully, because they have potential. If they could knock this out of the park, it'd be great. But time will tell. Yeah, time will tell. Time will tell. Hold on, I have to reload. My thing is crashing. I think the only I read that one. Let's see. Lord of the Hamstrings Glory, thank you for the 10. Hamstring's worst move was buying Bethesda during its decline. Starfield feels like a car, Bethesda dangling off a cliff. It's their decision to let the car off from the cliff or call Sony to pull them back. Now, I think that maybe this is a hot take. I think ZeniMax's acquisition made a lot more sense than Activision. Because I just, yes, Call of Duty makes a lot of money, but I think it's pretty clear that they paid top dollar for ZeniMax or for Activision, and I'm not so sure that was the right move, frankly. I think buying ZeniMax made a lot more sense than buying Activision. Let's see, did I miss any others? I want to make sure I didn't miss any others. Why are all the things I like and care about are run by people who are stupid and may hate me? Fix it, please, Luke. I'll try. I'll call some people. Since Xbox owns Bethesda, why don't they force them to make a better game? Because if it was more modern, it would sell better, and they like money. No. Well, Jacob, this is the thing, is that like you and I are very passionate about all this. It looks like Starfield was a financial success, a Game Pass success. And so, it's just because we don't like it particularly much, doesn't mean that the average gamer felt the same way, or that, people didn't buy it and try it. I think with Starfield, the thing is that people bought it, they played it for 25 hours and got bored, and then were like, eh. And now the reputation is soured. But I think a lot of people bought it and tried it. And so they made the money, But as far as like an Xbox executive is concerned, it was a success. Like, yeah, people online are like kind of twisted up about it, but it made the money. It got the gameplay hours. I don't think that they see it as a massive problem. It's why I've said I don't personally expect there to be any like major overhauls or changes to Bethesda's strategy or pricing models or anything, because what they're doing is working for them. They are making probably more money than they ever have with paid mods. They are finding cross media success with like the Amazon TV show for Fallout, and they are there it goes. And so they are finding lots of success in the way that they want to. And so I just don't think they see it as any problem. And I think that's the bigger point, is that Todd will only change things if he feels like there's a problem. And I don't think he sees the problem. I don't think he sees that there's a problem. I think he's like very happy with how things are going. But anyway, did you see the Star Wars Eclipse news? Yeah, I had it pulled up. I was going to see if we had time to talk about it. Basically, like, long story short, the Star Wars Eclipse, the one from the guys behind Detroit Become Human, they've been working on this. In December, they had a source describe it as the game at this stage is still looking to be years off from completion, which is not surprising. They launched Spellcasters Chronicles. Hold on. Let me pull up the Steam charts. Please hold. Yeah, so they pulled, it's technically early access, but I mean, again, this basically they were bought by NetEase. NetEase made them seemingly do a live service game, which is this. And it's gone about as well as you could expect. So even though everybody wants the Star Wars game, they've been working on this for years, and it's like, maybe it's super fun. I don't know, but it's a thing. So they have this, which I don't think is going to really change or shake the world. And so they've been working on that. NetEase, I don't think, is that thrilled. And As you can see, both NetEase and Quantic Dream, the sources say, are really relying on Spellcaster Chronicles, which entered early access in February, to bring in revenue that can then be spent on Eclipse's development. Quote, at this stage, the long-term outlook is less driven by creative capabilities and more by financial viability. Should Spellcasters fail commercially, NetEase is expected to reevaluate its commitment to the studio and could opt to discontinue further investment. That's not looking great, man. That's really not looking great. Because if this is true, then like this needs to be a financial success in order for the Star Wars game to be greenlit to like actually be finished. I don't think this counts. I don't think this counts. Let the reevaluation begin. Yeah. I could have told them 5 years ago, doing Spellcasters Chronicles when everybody wants you to just get the Star Wars game done is a bad idea. And people will not play it. People will not like it. Like, even if the game is pretty solid, who's like, this is the question that always comes up. Who is buying it? Who is playing it? Like, that's always my question. I'm like, your core fan base for Quantic Dream are like narrative choose your own adventure gamers. Those are the people that actually like follow this studio and like their work. This game is like the opposite of that. Like the polar opposite. So do you expect them to come out and play it? I don't think they will. And then like Spellcaster Chronicle, if you're into like League or other like MOBAs and stuff, I don't think you're moving over to an early access, like help us finish it kind of game. I don't think so. And so it just, no part of this makes any sense, but it's just some executive at NetEase was like, well, before we give you enough money to finish the Star Wars game, you need to find success here. Yeah. Neither Quantic Dream or the parent company NetEase responded to multiple requests for comments on this story. I'm going to be real. If this is true, if this statement is true, at this stage, the long-term outlook is less driven by creative capabilities and more by financial viability. Should Spellcasters fail commercially, they're going to expect it to reevaluate their commitment to the studio and could opt to reevaluate or discontinue rather further investment. I don't think any studio or any publisher in the world would look at this and say, yeah, let's give them more money. And I'm not happy about that. I really like Quantic Dream's games. I think that they're cool, and there's really not a lot of other studios that do games like they do. I loved Detroit Become Human. I loved it. And it's just really sad to see that going on 8 years later, they've put out this early access thing, which is kind of a disaster, and nothing else. It's just absolutely baffling. Absolutely baffling. Who is greenlighting it is my question. I think it's just, it's some executive at NetEase that they bought the studio and they said, okay, we'll buy you up and we're going to have you try a live service game. Because there was a period where all of these companies, they had more money than sense, more dollars than sense. And it was in that like COVID era where companies were just getting free money from global governments. Like the interest rate on loans that they could take out was lower than inflation. So it was literally free money. It's ridiculous. And so a lot of companies that had either just bought studios or that were about to buy a studio with that money, they decided to task those studios and fund them to make live service games because it was like a gamble. It was, if there's a 1 in 10 success chance, that's worth it because the money's free. But now the money's not free anymore. And live service stuff has become so oversaturated that you can launch it even after spending millions and you're struggling to get over 100 players, you know? It just really sucks. I, unfortunately, and this pains me to say, I would not be surprised if not only does Spellcasters get shut down, but they also shut down Quantic Dream. And I'm not happy about that. I would expect at that point, probably a lot of the employees will leave and go work on something else. But if I were a betting man, I would be putting money on Eclipse never launching. The only exception to this could be it's a Star Wars licensed game. Disney's involved. So if Disney greenlit this, I'm sure they have some contractual thing that if the game never gets made, that they have some penalty they have to pay. So there could be an element where like NetEase decides we'd rather pay the $20 million fee or whatever than spend more money and risk another flop. We'll just shut you guys down. That's maybe what they would decide. Or maybe they decide we don't want to pay the penalty for not delivering the game we agreed we would deliver. And so we're going to finish the game and it better be a success. We just don't know what those terms are. But I would imagine that Disney has some sort of protection to get the project actually done. You remember how everybody was baffled that Skull and Bones was still around and not like never canceled? That was because they took money as part of a government deal from the Singapore government. And part of that deal was that they had to launch an original IP from that studio. Otherwise they face all sorts of governmental like fees and stuff and penalties. And so Ubisoft had to finish Skull and Bones and put it out. They had to ship a new IP game. That's why they couldn't just do Black Flag Online, AC Black Flag Online. They couldn't do that. It had to be a new IP. That was part of the deal to get that government money. And so there might be something similar here where there's like a deal they made with Disney where they agreed and said, you have to ship the game. It has to ship and it has to meet these standards or whatever. And if you cancel it and it doesn't get finished, then you pay us this amount as a penalty or whatever. So that could, muddy the water. But I think at this point, I'm worried. I mean, everybody was already worried because it's been forever. It was revealed at the Game Awards in 2021. And it's just been like total silence. And then they came out of nowhere announced that they were doing this live service, like as you can see, 3v3 strategy, action strategy battles. I don't know, man. Like maybe it is super fun, but it's just not the game that anybody wanted them to make, which is what's really frustrating and difficult. It's just too bad. What a waste of time. It's too bad. Like, and again, you can look at it in a vacuum and be like, oh, well, maybe the game is really, really good. You should give it a chance. Yeah, I get that. But the core fan base that follows this studio, they are not looking for a game like this. You're telling me that the guys that played Detroit Become Human are going to like hop in here? They're not. It's just not their kind of game. And what happens, and this has become very, very clear, I think a lot of companies thought that if you had a studio that people knew and loved and respected, and you had them do a live service game, that players would go and they either wouldn't care, they'd be like, it's not for me, and they just wouldn't care, they'd move on, and then somebody else would come in and play it, right? But what's actually happened is that when you have that studio that people know and love, and you have them spend 4 years doing nothing else but that live service game, now this project becomes a target. It becomes representative of their studio that they like and that they're a fan of, having their time wasted. We wanted like Batman Arkham whatever, and we got Suicide Squad? Are you kidding me? We wanted Uncharted whatever, or Last of Us 3, whatever it would have been. And you gave us The Last of Us Online and then canceled it? We wanted you to make Bloodborne 2 or remake or remaster or something from Blue Point. You had them work on a God of War live service game. And so people hear these things and all of a sudden then that becomes representative of everything wrong with the current era of live service gaming. And it becomes a target. It becomes, we don't just not care. We're not apathetic. We want this to fail to punish you. And I think that that's part of like the contempt and disdain that comes in. NetEase bought them for the success of Detroit Become Human, only to directly make them or direct them to make a MOBA in order to make the game they're actually suited for. God, the gaming industry is so wretched. Well, it's why I'm just, you hear these stories and you're just like, literally who did this? Like what executive thought this made sense? It's baffling. But it's usually because there's some guy that's from private equity who thought that this would be cool and was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Yeah, let's try that. It goes terribly. This is how it ends, dude. It goes terribly. Let's see. Who TF trusts Ubisoft? I don't know. It seems like most people at Ubisoft don't trust Ubisoft either. I know Luke has a deal with Opera, but he needs to switch to the Brave browser. This is Chrome. I do use Opera, as well. I do have Opera as well, but I had a couple of extensions for Chrome, specifically when we do like video reactions and stuff. Chrome has some good integrations for like sound boosters, which is really, really nice. So it looks like ad block just isn't working. But the guys that run Insider Gaming are also great, so I have no problem with them running ads while we look at their stuff. They do great work. But okay. Let's see. Did I tackle that? I tackled that. Okay. So long story short, did I see the Star Wars Eclipse news? Yes, and I'm sad about it, and I'm worried. I hope they're given the chance to actually finish Star Wars Eclipse, because I think if we get a Detroit Become Human game, like style game and format game, but in Star Wars, that could be amazing. But the fact that in December they were like, oh, we're years away, and now they're telling Insider Gaming that they're like, yeah, if this game flops, they may not give us money and we may shut down. That really worries me. So we'll follow it. But I unfortunately, I wouldn't be surprised if within like a couple of months we hear some news about either them selling off Quantic Dream or shutting it down or something. But I think probably the biggest question mark is just what the deal is that Sony has with them to deliver it. Because Disney, when Disney gets involved, it's complicated. So I'm sure that there's some hiccups involved with that, but we'll see. Anyway. Okay, guys, fam, good. Go team. We got through pretty much everything I wanted to get through. That's awesome. And we did it just under 3 hours. I'm feeling good. Thank you guys for joining me today. You guys are amazing. Much love. Sorry to the Twitch bros with Twitch not working. I apologize. Twitch will do what Twitch does, as you know. Kind of beyond my control at this point. You gotta love it. But I appreciate you guys joining me. Sam, thank you for 16 months. Luke, been watching for a long time. Literally just recommended you to a coworker. Keep it up. Also, am I the only one hyped for Lego Batman? No, you're not. I think Lego Batman looks awesome. I think we will hear about it soon enough. So, I don't know if they're doing like how exactly they're going to frame it, but we should be hearing about it at some point this month. I would think, with it coming next month. So we'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, I'm excited. I think it looks baller. I am surprised that we haven't heard more about it, but I think we will soon. But okay, great. Much love, everybody. You have a fantastic rest of your day. I will be back. My goal is Wednesday, rocking and rolling with more stuff to talk about. It's going to be awesome. Tomorrow there should be a big channel video on the Starfield update that drops, because we got to try it. Why not? One last time around the block with Starfield, I think is what it's going to be. So we'll be back. Make sure to have, the subs and ring the bell and everything for the big channel. And, but we'll be back here very soon. Okay. Much love. I'll see you very, very soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye. Mwah.